Chapter 401. In ancient times, the famous painter Zhang Senju once painted a lifelike golden dragon on the wall. However, the dragon lacked eyes, so everyone asked him to add the eyes to the dragon. Zhang Senju replied, "If I add the eyes, the dragon will fly away." Of course, no one believed this and insisted that he add the eyes. Zhang Senju had no choice but to comply. Before everyone's eyes, he picked up his brush and gently added eyes to the dragon. In an instant, the sky filled with dark clouds, fierce winds blew, and thunder and lightning flashed. The eye-drawing golden dragon suddenly broke free from the wall and soared into the sky, actually flying away amidst the clouds. This is the origin of the phrase bringing a dragon to life by dotting its eyes, and the principle similarly applies to the refinement of the divine soul. It's often said, the eyes are the windows to the soul, they are the most communicative and expressive features on the human face. Even in a painting, the eyes are the most critical area. If made incorrectly, the piece is seen as fundamentally flawed. The same goes for the divine soul. Without the eyes, it cannot be considered a successful manifestation. Which means, the cultivator still has major flaws in controlling the divine soul, and is not qualified to break through to the divine manifestation realm. Liu Yao's soul traveled out of his body, ready to begin. Compared with Fran, his soul looked quite shoddy, like a CG character in a computer game, slightly fake. Liu Yao was unconcerned. He closed his eyes and thought for a moment, focusing his thoughts on his divine soul. His soul shimmered with waves, and his eyelids began to flutter rapidly. A few girls chatting nearby also noticed the disturbance and quickly stopped their conversation, cautiously looking this way. After a little while, Liu Yao's divine soul ceased moving. When he opened his eyes, they still lacked pupils, signaling a failure in the eye-drawing process. Liao Ya came over and consoled him gently, "Junior brother, don't worry, the path of spirit refinement isn't that simple. But you will definitely make it." Li Pei and Liao Qi also spoke in soft, comforting tones. Fran said, "Holy Knight, I think the foundation of your soul isn't solid enough. Perhaps it would be wiser to rest and quiet your heart." Liu Yao turned a deaf ear and after pondering for a while, his divine soul returned to his body. Just when the ladies thought he would take a break, the next second, Liu Yao's divine soul emerged again. Fran sighed, "Stubborn Holy Knight, you don't think that just by looking at my soul once, you can do it yourself, do you?" But before she could finish, Liu Yao's divine soul suddenly came close. Fran's large eyes were like limpid emeralds, her clear, unworldly pupils reflecting Liu Yao's divine soul like a mirror. She instantly understood the man's intention. To use her as a reference. Indeed, Liu Yao was using those sparkling, translucent eyes as both a mirror and a reference, adjusting once again. Everyone held their breath in silence, waiting anxiously yet patiently, and Fran didn't blink an eyelid. Liu Yao's divine soul showed rippling waves, and the area where the eyes should be emitted an ever-brightening white light. The breakthrough in spirit refinement occurred in an instant, and after a few breaths, Liu Yao's divine soul blinked, just like Fran when she first awakened. All of a sudden, complete eyes appeared on the divine soul, identical to Liu Yao's own, without the slightest difference. In that instant, what initially resembled a CG avatar had become vivid and lifelike. It was as if the visual effects in a game were turned from the lowest to ultra-high settings, undergoing a thorough transformation. Liu Yao's eyebrows, eyes, skin, and hair. All of him seemed like a living person. If one didn't touch him, it would be impossible to tell that this was his divine soul. In this moment, Fran and Liu Yao were still gazing into each other's eyes. She smiled faintly, and curtsied again, this time with exceptional formality. Both hands lifting the sides of her dress, feet crossed, knees bent with a nod of the head. "Holy Knight, congratulations! Thank you for being my point of reference," Liu Yao said with a happy chuckle. Li Pei and the Liao family sisters also gathered around, asking excitedly, "My lord, are you going to start your divine manifestation next?" "Yes, your lord, I am about to ascend and reveal the true divine manifestation of the holy realm." Liu Yao wore an air of utmost confidence, welcoming the admiring glances from his own family's girls. At that moment, Fran cleared her throat and spoke. "You want to manifest your spiritual power? This step is very difficult. Moreover, I am curious to see what kind of mental unity you will manifest. What is it called here, heart image? If you conjure something too evil, I'll take back the title of Holy Knight." The Liu family laughed without saying a word. Even though Fran's true form was merely a sword, everyone still arranged a beautifully furnished room for her. After nightfall, they all went to sleep. Fran lay on a soft bed infused with the scent of sunlight, very satisfied, and grateful to the Lu family for their care. But suddenly, she felt a bit lost. Even though she had set the goal of reshaping her physical body during the day, after all, 2,000 years had passed, and everything she knew and cared about had perished. Luckily, those I detest are still around. She recalled the moment before her death. A disgusting blood ancestor with a lewd smile, the traitors who dared not look her in the eye, and the rolling golden flames as she self-detonated at the end. Fran summoned the lake sword into her arms and held it close, gently closing her eyes, her eyelashes long. But after all, she was a spiritual being, gifted with a perception beyond the reach of ordinary people. Despite the great distance and the very faint noise, she still heard a strange sound. The sound was like a lament, mournful and melodious, as if it might soar into the heavens any second. "This is Liao Qi, whom I just met today." Fran was deeply impressed with this lady's ethereal beauty, as delicate as a dewy hibiscus, and recognized her voice immediately, also understanding what she was doing. Nevertheless, Fran was quite calm about it, as reproduction is a completely normal affair. Just as she was about to reminisce over some poignant memories of the past, the voice suddenly changed. This time it was the lady known as Liao Ye. And after a while, Li Pei's voice could be heard as well, sometimes even all three together. This was getting too hard for Fran to ignore, even though it was normal for strong individuals to spread their bloodline, this was just too excessive. Ignoring the need to stabilize their realms, wasting precious time on such matters. Damnable! I've made a big mistake, I shouldn't have given him the title of Holy Knight. At that moment, Fran hugely regretted having given the wrong title. In the end, for the sake of out of sight, out of mind, she simply went back into the lake sword to hibernate. The next morning at dawn, the lake sword circled around Jingyi Garden several times and even encountered Yu Yanmei. However, Li Pei had already informed his master about the previous night, so Yu Yanmei merely took a curious glance and did not intervene further. Fran felt much better in the glow of the dawn, after all, she could not fly so freely when she had a physical body. After a while, she suddenly saw her holy knight looking completely refreshed as he walked out of his room. She immediately descended, wanting to pick a quarrel. But before she got close, she suddenly saw a shocking phantom behind him with 3 heads and 6 arms. Chapter 402, Things Are Not Simple. Fran stared with her piercing blue eyes, pointing at the 3-headed, 6-armed shadow behind Lu Yao, and exclaimed, "How did you manage to form it so quickly?" "Oh, this." Lu Yao glanced back casually and said, "I've borrowed the power of divine manifestation before, so it's like a walk in the park for me." Fran's crystal-clear gaze shifted as she sized up Lu Yao, expressing her surprise, "It's very dangerous to misuse the power of faith so recklessly, Holy Knight. You should be careful." "Don't worry, I've got it under control." While the two were speaking, Li Pei and Liao Ye also emerged from the house. The large production of estrogen had made their skin rosy and exceptionally tender and smooth, and their hair shinier. Liao Ye still acted somewhat restrained, like a thief wanting to flee as soon as possible. Li Pei greeted Fran with composure and then saw the vague shadow above her husband's head, saying with delight, "Is my husband starting the divine manifestation?" "Exactly, we've just begun," said Lu Yao as he closed his eyes to focus, and the shadow grew slightly more solid. It was as if a 3D printer was swiftly printing it out. Liao Ye stopped running, her bright and spirited eyes full of curiosity. "Junior brother, why is your heart image so small?" The 3-headed, 6-armed heart image was only 2 to 3 meters tall, far from the towering 100. Lu Yao explained, "I'm manifesting the heart image by relying on my own strength, so it's a bit smaller. However, this will give me an extremely solid foundation, allowing me to go further in the future. Also, I'm not lacking in willpower, so it can grow instantly after breaking through." When Fran heard not lacking in willpower, she took a deep look at Lu Yao. Li Pei and Liao Ye were overjoyed by their husband's progress, feeling as if they were in a dream. To marry such a talented and powerful man. It was known that the status of spirit refining manifest holiness was equivalent to that of martial golden body, and such characters were among the handful of strong individuals in the world, not just in the Shun dynasty. Women often have a bit of vanity, and the more powerful their man, the happier they naturally feel. But this was also an inspiration. Liao Ye said with conviction, "We need to push ourselves harder, so we don't become a burden." Li Pei nodded in agreement. Let's go cultivate, aiming to advance to the innate realm as soon as possible. After I get that sleepy brat up. Liaoya turned and went back into the house to drag her sleepy sister out of bed. Inside the house, there was a ruckus, but no matter what, Liao Qi wouldn't wake up. So, Liaoya wrapped her sister in a blanket and carried her out, hurrying off towards the training ground. Liao Qi still slept soundly, her delicate and fair feet swinging out from under the blanket. Lu Ya reached out to tickle them, and her sister's toes, like cloves of garlic, curled adorably. Fran watched this silently, her voice laced with envy. Your family seems to be living very happily. Not bad, Lu Yao said, quite content with his ability to maintain harmony in his household. Then he asked, so, Lady Fran, how can I help you reconstruct your physical body? There has to be some direction, right? Fran furrowed her brow, and her gem-like eyes darkened. This matter has somewhat exceeded my expectations. My original plan was to seek help from a demigod, that is, someone who has undergone thunder baptism. But I couldn't sleep last night, so I ended up looking through many books and newspapers, only to find that the world has changed a lot. There are no strong individuals who have gone through thunder baptism anymore. Such beings, though rare, should exist in decent numbers across the world, but now they seem to have vanished. It's very strange. The thunder baptism is to cross the heavenly tribulation. Although the cultivation methods of the East and West vastly differ, the supreme path is strikingly simple and ultimately leads to the same destination. The specific realms, however, are quite similar. However, I can guess why, Fran said, glancing at the sun that had appeared in the sky. With such a greedy entity hanging overhead, ascending to the high skies to undergo the thunder baptism is like voluntary feeding. Lu Yao also gazed at the sky for a brief moment and felt that the other party made a lot of sense. Zhou He, the old cultivator, had also mentioned that information related to heavenly tribulation is tightly sealed and strictly forbidden to be accessed. Even if it's challenging, it wouldn't be like this. They must be pushed to this extent only because of some great danger, leaving them with no choice. So, Fran spoke with a touch of melancholy, I can only stabilize the state of my soul and slowly look for other methods. Lu Yao transmitted some innate true qi to her, consoling, there will always be a way. In a while, I will visit a cultivation sect with a long history, hoping to find something useful there. This was precisely the arrangement made earlier with Zhou He at Mount Wudang. Fran nodded while comfortably closing her eyes. Your life essence has an indescribably comforting quality. It feels so warm. If it tastes good, eat more of it. While responding, Lu Yao mulled over another matter that seemed very amiss. The sneaky little devil He Ren was capable of divine travel and had even entered the collective subconscious of Blue Star. Yet divine travel is an ability that comes after surviving the heavenly tribulation. So the question arises. When no one else can make it through, how did that guy manage it? This matter isn't so simple. In the following days, Lu Yao exercised extreme caution and diligently engaged in cultivation. All worldly matters, schemes, wealth, and so on, are ephemeral. Even an emperor could be abandoned overnight. Only power gained through painstaking cultivation is fundamental. Moreover, after experiencing the majesty of divine manifestation, Lu Yao was more eager than ever to reach that realm again. With such strength, he could settle down in the Shun dynasty without having to worry about foreign covetousness. As time unknowingly passed, news reached by the end of March that Commander Zhou had decisively crushed the invading Rakshasa army from beyond the borders. Out of the 150,000 strong army, only a mere 10,000 managed to escape. Had it not been for a Rakshasa duke who came to their aid, it's likely the entire army would have been annihilated. At the same time, there was another piece of expected good news. Jihad confirmed that Einheit indeed suffered the loss of a duke and 20,000 troops, brazenly tearing up the verbally agreed ceasefire and, teeth clenched, mustered the strength to send more reinforcements to the front lines. A new battle was about to commence. Jihad's desperate efforts weren't for a counterattack to achieve something on the battlefield, but rather to push for peace through war, seeking a more relaxed and dignified real ceasefire. At this moment, Lu Yao was smiling as he read the news in the newspaper. Good, that's how it should be. The more blood they shed, the greater the losses, the better. At this point, above his head, a shadow that even ordinary people could see had appeared. 3 heads and 6 arms, about 5 meters tall, but only up to the waist, halfway materialized. This was the spiritual essence that Liu Yao manifested through his own power, and the process solidified his foundation. For the remaining half, however, Liu Yao had his own ideas. The other half, I must go back to Blue Star to consolidate. Manifesting the spiritual essence is also a process of understanding and perceiving the world, and my understanding of Blue Star is still insufficient. Chapter 403, Breakthrough Back in My Hometown. At this moment, Liu Yao's divine soul was akin to a tirelessly working 3D printer, gradually outlining his spirit embodiment. Having experienced divine manifestation once before, everything was proceeding smoothly and swiftly. It wouldn't take long for him to manifest his soul into reality truly. With every bit of concentration on condensing the spirit embodiment, Liu Yao gained a deeper understanding of the connection between reality and the spiritual realm. This was an extremely precious experience. Liu Yao felt as if he were standing before a grand door, behind which lay a brand new world. But there was one way he was different from the others. He still had Blue Star to consider. The world is like an isolated island, connected through the ocean of the mind. Liu Yao gazed at the half-formed spirit embodiment, and it looked back at him, as if he were looking in a mirror. I'll finish condensing the other half back on Blue Star, after all, it's my homeland, and I shouldn't show partiality. Plus, I still have questions about the extraordinary. Liu Yao stood up, preparing to return to Blue Star while also taking care of a few minor matters. The top priority was to craft a new flying sword for himself. The lake sword was now Fran's body. The girl had an air of royalty about her, acting all princess-like. But in fact, she was childishly possessive, not liking others to touch the lake sword. For now, Liu Yao was making do with the triangle flying sword that Zhou He had given him. This was also meticulously crafted by Zhou He, far more powerful than ordinary weapons but still no match for a divine sword whose power and speed far exceeded the mundane. This wasn't difficult, he could just take some ancient swords back to Blue Star and refine them with his willpower. The three girls were still in closed-door cultivation in the practice room, and Liu Yao chose not to disturb them, instead going to inform Yu Yanmei. Yu Yanmei was practicing swordplay at the peak of the mountain, her precious sword cutting through the air leaving trails of white, resonating with sounds of dragon chants and tiger roars. The martial path of the other world lacked variety, it was all about speed and power. Upon Liu Yao's arrival, Yu Yanmei sheathed her sword and gazed toward him with eyes as clear as autumn waters. Her skin shimmered like morning dew, radiant like jade, and as pure as snow. Liu Yao was momentarily spellbound before he said, "Grandmaster Yu, I will be leaving for a few days. Please inform Li Pei and the others for me." Yu Yanmei nodded gently, realizing that her disciple was off on another adventure. Like the outside world, she was extremely curious, but it wasn't her place to pry. Outwardly cool, but internally filled with eagerness like a scratching kitten. At that moment, Liu Yao noticed the long chuan sword at Yu Yanmei's waist. That too was an ancient sword, one that the tomb raiders of Izumo had dug up, only to be taken by him. Nourished by repeated infusions of Yu Yanmei's true qi, it had become a sword as frosty as snow, emitting a chilling brilliance. At a glance, the ultimate sharpness was so piercing that it hurt one's eyes. Liu Yao suggested, "Do you find that sword suitable? How about I help you enhance it a bit?" Yu Yanmei unfastened the sword from her waist and handed it over, saying, "This sword has been nurtured by me to perfection, you must be careful with it. Don't worry, rest assured it will be better than before." Liu Yao handed over his triangle flying sword, "Use this one in the meantime for the next few days. Oh, and please take care of Fran for me." "The sword spirit? I understand," Yu Yanmei nodded demurely, then added with a hint of caution in her tone. "Lately, there are unsettling rumors on the martial path, many wishing to uncover your secrets. Just be careful, don't be reckless on account of your spirit refining stage. Worry not, it won't be long before it's of no concern." Liu Yao gave Yu Yanmei a fist salute and then departed with long strides. Last time Liu Yao returned to Blue Star, he used the 9th set of broadcast exercises as a foundation and adapted it into a set of martial arts. The 9th set of broadcast exercises was originally suitable for all ages. With the insight of a grandmaster, Liu Yao adapted it into a cultivation method with exceptional effects on body tempering, more than sufficient for a common dojo to treasure as its crowning jewel. During this period, some people have already tasted the sweetness. Some fitness enthusiasts who like to lift weights were the first to discover that, although boxing is bitter, tiring, and painful, it really works. The exercise effect is several times that of ordinary methods. They showcase their achievements online one after another, with muscle buffs competing to share their experiences. Consequently, many scientific research institutions also expressed that the methods Liu Yao uploaded were indeed a scientific way of exercising and could be widely promoted. As a result, the entire Blue Star began an era of national boxing training. While the people of Blue Star enthusiastically learned Xia language, factories in Xia country also operated at full capacity to produce practice clothes. This became the latest point of export-driven growth, with orders lined up until the year after next. Neighboring countries also had similar products, but they could only occupy the low-end market. The wealthy only recognized the original products from Xia country. In West Mountain Park, it was only 5:30 in the morning, yet there were already many people practicing boxing on the mountain. Men and women, young and old, were all practicing with great enthusiasm. There were rumors among the Jianghu that one must cultivate true skills in a quiet place far from the hustle and bustle of the city to absorb spiritual energy. So, everyone ran to the surrounding forest parks. But looking at the scene, which was like a bustling market, it wasn't much better than being in the city. However, most people were just joining in for the fun. After all, it was still a form of boxing practice, and it was not much more comfortable than training in gymnastics. Very few could persist. Liu Yao had long returned and, seeing this scene, he became curious about whether Blue Star could give birth to transcendent beings, that is, organ-refining warriors. He did not pay much attention to the noisy crowd playing around, but instead extended his mind force to observe several special individuals carefully. These individuals, both men and women, were in their prime, with a spirit, energy, and essence distinctly different from ordinary people, possessing exceptional vigor and composure. Avoiding the crowd, they went to a desolate place full of twists, turns, and thorns. They have practiced kung fu, their foundation is solid, and they have the physique of the bone-tempering realm. But without reaching organ refining, they are still mortals, Liu Yao appraised in his mind as he silently observed these individuals on the pinnacle of humanity, to see what was different when they practiced. They performed their boxing with postures and strength that were incredibly precise, displaying the lightness of a crane as well as the steadiness of a turtle, and they could even produce a loud sound when exploding with force. However, Liu Yao frowned deeply, their vigor and blood are extremely thick, but there is not a trace of inner breath. In the martial path of Otherworld, a martial artist in the latter stages of the bone-tempering realm would generate a trace of inner breath when bursting with vigor and blood. When one's kung fu reaches the point where their vigor and blood are thick enough and they grasp that trace of inner breath to refine their organs, they enter the organ-refining realm. However, for some reason on Blue Star, Liu Yao had observed 4 individuals consecutively, and not one had produced even the slightest bit of inner breath. With this being the case, not to mention reaching organ refining, they couldn't even achieve the culmination of bone tempering. It seems that when I took tonic medicines previously on Blue Star, although it was the same substance, the medicinal effect was only 1/20. There must be unknown differences between the two worlds. Would I encounter obstacles if I were to exhibit divine manifestation on Blue Star? Divine manifestation is a profound interference with the material world by the mind, not as simple as casually supporting paper airplanes or flying swords. With this doubt, Liu Yao concentrated his divine soul, allowing the upper half of the forming divine aspect to manifest. In that instant, within a 10-kilometer radius, there suddenly appeared strange electromagnetic interference, causing countless people's mobile phones to lose signal, but it quickly returned to normal. However, sharp-eyed individuals noticed. There was a faint and indistinct image in the sky. As Liu Yao started to quickly gather the lower half of his divine aspect, the phantom in the sky also became increasingly solid. Immediately, even those with poor eyesight could see clearly. It was a 10-meter-tall image with 3 heads and 6 arms, resembling the divine figure from a temple. Countless people rushed to spread the news and took out devices to capture the phenomenon, but the moment a phone was pointed at the image, water-like ripples appeared as if it was mysteriously interfered with, but fortunately, they could still manage to capture a rough outline. Liu Yao was having a smooth experience, initially believing there was no difference in spirit refining between the two worlds, but soon he realized he was terribly mistaken. Chapter 404, Cultivation Confirmed. The majestic heart shape with 3 heads and 6 arms in mid-air had become incredibly solid, attracting countless onlookers and numerous drones circling to film. The consolidation of the heart shape marked the completion of the most difficult step. Next, all that needed to be done was to pull the heart shape into the real world, like tearing through a layer of cling wrap. However, at this moment, despite the heart shape was fully consolidated, it could not manifest. Liu Yao felt as if there were a layer of tempered glass between himself and the heart shape, and no matter how hard he tried, he could not get through. It seemed there was an invisible, intangible wall of air blocking the way, as if stuck in a bug within a game map. Liu Yao was somewhat puzzled. Why can't the heart shape manifest? Then why can my divine soul astral project without any hindrance? At this moment, he was not in a panic. If all else failed, he could return to the other world for a breakthrough, but he couldn't just give up either. Right away, he performed soul travel, searching for the cause through the perspective of his soul. He saw a figure exactly like Liu Yao fly out from between his eyebrows, lifelike. If it hadn't been floating in mid-air, no one would have thought it was a divine soul. Drones were flying in the sky at that time, and the entire blue star saw the scene of the soul travel, leaving countless billions dumbfounded and speechless with amazement. Netizens from Xia country's cultural circles reacted first, and the comments quickly filled the screen. This is soul travel. Is that large one performing the law of heaven and earth? That big fellow looks like a giant projection, kind of fake and a bit small. What's the hurry? He seems to be in the midst of a breakthrough. Wait a minute, he seems to be encountering some difficulties. Liu Yao paid no attention to the onlookers, focusing solely on finding a solution. With a thought, he opened the heavenly eye, and the world suddenly changed. His field of vision was filled with dazzling halos and lines, the magnetic field of the planet, gravity, all sorts of cosmic rays, as well as the colorful soul lights of intelligent life. With a careful comparison and observation through the heavenly eye, Liu Yao instantly saw the crux of the problem. His divine soul was like a lamp, radiating uniform, soft white light all over, whereas the heart shape was like a neon sign, colorful and rather chaotic. Seeing this scene, he suddenly understood. I completely copied the last experience and made a formalistic mistake. The heart shape I condensed was too disordered and fragmented, like a jumbled-up picture or a bug-ridden program, having only form and lacking spirit. Last time, it was only because the power of collective will that descended and overcame all that allowed a forceful manifestation, but this state is obviously substandard. Having found the problem, the rest was easier to handle. Liu Yao used the technique of bringing life with the finishing touch. He looked up at the heart shape and extended his hand, as if looking in a mirror. The heart shape made the same gesture and reached out. Just as their hands were about to touch, Liu Yao blinked his eyes. The heart's body suddenly rippled like water, and the chaotic lights quickly unified, transforming into white light just like Liu Yao's, with the same pulsation. And its eyes, which originally just glowed, suddenly had pupils and became lively in an instant. It was at that moment that their hands touched. This time, what Liu Yao felt was not an illusionary image but a genuine, tangible body. The heart-shape manifestation was successful. The noble figure with 3 heads and 6 arms finally descended upon Blue Star. At this moment, Liu Yao was somewhat relieved. Thank goodness I came back to try. If I relied on the power of collective will to force a divine manifestation, the foundation would have been too poor, which is not beneficial for the future. Because it was his own strength that led to the breakthrough, without using the willpower cheat, the heart shape was quite small, only 10 meters tall. Its combat power was barely on par with an innate martial artist. But that size was the most common stature, the height most people would condense. The previous 100-meter tall heart shape was too exaggerated, which made countless people exclaim in awe at its size. Looking at the mere 10-meter tall heart shape, Liu Yao was gleeful and very happy. He was indifferent to its size. After all, he had plenty of Yanhuang power of collective will, ready to bolster it any time. Laying a solid foundation was the key. While Liu Yao was feeling happy, all the cameras focused their lenses on the heart shape. The different expressions on the 3 faces of the heart shape left the billions watching murmuring in amazement, critiquing, and discussing. 3 heads and 6 arms. This is truly law of heaven and earth. The divine skills used by Sun Wukong and Erlang Shen. The reality of cultivation is confirmed. The immortal has successfully made a breakthrough. Do you still remember what he said last time? He said, once I've made the breakthrough, I'm going to settle scores with Star Alliance country in a big way. Here comes another great show. Speed up, speed up. Having successfully completed his divine manifestation, next on the agenda was to deal with the trivial matters as planned. Besides using his flying sword, he also had to take out Colonel Reynolds from the Star Alliance country. Having been quite busy lately, He had allowed this military scientist to live a while longer, now it was time to send him on his way. Meanwhile, he would take a trip to the place where the Star Key was first discovered. Derek City in Mali State, Star Alliance country, to see if there were any clues left. That is to say, all his tasks could be completed in one trip to the Star Alliance country, just like when playing a game and undertaking many quests in the same location, which brought an inexplicable sense of satisfaction. Next, Liu Yao withdrew his divine soul back into his body, allowing the golden dragon and stone lion to fully absorb the power of the Yanhuang will. He opened his mouth to release the dragon pattern mirror, transforming it into the willpower golden dragon, and then rode the dragon up into the high skies. The golden dragon reveled in the atmosphere of the capital, swirling and dancing in the sky, and let out a resounding dragon's chant full of dignity and a hint of excitement. The onlooking citizens of Xia country were instantly invigorated and their spirits cleared. A massive wave of Yanhuang will converged, guided by Liu Yao, into the bodies of the golden dragon and the stone lion. At the same time, Liu Yao took out Yu Yanmi's long chuan sword and began to refine it with the power of collective will. As a weapon from Otherworld, the sword would face rejection by the Yanhuang will, so he could only use the slightly lower quality power of collective will. Fortunately, the sheer amount was enough to make up for the lack of quality. With a tidal wave of willpower pouring in, the long chuan sword almost instantly became an offering vessel, flickering with a faint luminescence. However, strictly speaking, this was just a visual effect, the enhancement it received was not substantial. But Liu Yao was currently being filmed by countless cameras, and the long chuan sword was being observed by perhaps billions of people. This traditional treasure sword of Xia country was promptly recognized. Many well-meaning comments popped up in the barrage. The Long Chuan treasured sword dates back to the Spring and Autumn and Warring States periods, created by Master Ou Yat, with a history of over 2,600 years. This sword, also known as the Dragon Abyss Sword, was once selected as a state gift presented to foreign heads of state and friends. In an instant, a wave of willpower exclusive to the Long Chuan sword surged forward. This was when the benefit of caring about one's reputation became apparent. He always refrained from harming civilians and needlessly killing the innocent and even uploaded adapted martial arts techniques. Although the Star Alliance was constantly slandering him, most people did not dislike him amidst the full attention of the nation. At this moment, nearly 70% of the positive willpower gathered in the Long Chuan sword was affirmative. This is a unit of willpower in the billions. In Otherworld, it would be equivalent to national power being used for refinement. Any piece of scrap metal would become a divine weapon. The Long Chuan sword shone brightly, so dazzling that it was difficult to keep one's eyes open, and Liu Yao seemed to be holding a column of light in his hand. After about half an hour, the sword had reached its limit for carrying willpower, and Liu Yao severed the connective channel of willpower. The glow gradually faded, and the Long Chuan sword had changed significantly from what it once was. In addition to having an edge as sharp as frost, it appeared to be enshrouded in a layer of glaze, with the air around the blade being slightly blurred. Liu Yao picked up the sword and channeled innate true qi to nick one of his own fingernails, easily slicing it off. His fingernails were 3 times tougher than steel, which was testament to the razor sharpness of the sword. Not bad, it has become a magic artifact. Grandmaster Yu will certainly love it. A magic artifact, which was incredibly precious in Otherworld, could be effortlessly created by Liu Yao on Blue Star with just half an hour of live streaming, and this was just the initial refinement. Moreover, Liu Yao was quite curious. Would that ice-cold beauty, akin to a moon elf, smile upon receiving a divine weapon as a gift? Just as he was daydreaming, the golden dragon and stone lion had also had their fill. At that moment, while astride the golden dragon's head, Liu Yao suddenly felt that the dragon's head under his feet seemed to have grown larger. Looking closer, he saw that the golden dragon's size had indeed increased, from 70 meters in length to 80 meters. The dragon and the Yanhuang willpower were astonishingly compatible. Chapter 405, Star Alliance Country Army Biological Laboratory. Once again undergoing the relentless refinement by Yanhuang's empowered willingness, the golden dragon's size seemed to have grown as if it had eaten a growth enhancer, from 70 meters long to close to 80 meters. Not only was its aura more majestic and impressive, but its capacity to store and absorb the power of Yanhuang had also greatly increased, almost on par with the stone lion. Liu Yao was extremely satisfied, patted the dragon's horn, and said to the golden dragon, "Let's go, show me what new abilities you've gained." The golden dragon followed its master's command and roared, bringing forth a strong gust of wind. Countless clouds also gathered around, spiraling around its body like flying ribbons, especially around its four claws, displaying an appearance as if wind and clouds were moving with it. The next instant, Liu Yao suddenly felt a strong push on his back, and with a roar, they zoomed off. The speed was so fast that the air had become like a liquid, yet it did not act as a resistance. Instead, it automatically parted and flowed backward, becoming the driving power that continuously accelerated them. Liu Yao was amazed. The wind and clouds are actually pushing us forward, riding the clouds and riding the mist. The speed must be over 1,000 kilometers per hour. This magical treasure, which has condensed thousands of years of belief from Huaxia, is truly wondrous in its myriad uses. At this moment, he felt exhilarated, but the entire blue star was shaking violently. The golden dragon was almost twice the size of a regular passenger plane, so such a large object flying in the sky was hard to miss. And it was clearly heading in the direction of the Star Alliance country. Except for the Star Alliance country, which immediately entered a state of battle readiness, other people didn't seem to panic but were quite excitedly waiting for the show to start. This included many citizens of the Star Alliance country itself, who widened their eyes in anticipation of the commotion. On the way, Liu Yao began to organize the information in his mind to devise a plan of action. Previously, he had asked Li Jin to investigate, chapter 260, and the first owner of the Star Key was named, Ole Porn, who had worked for Derek Biological Laboratory. After being exposed for conducting live experiments on citizens and soldiers, the laboratory was shut down, and its personnel were disbanded. When Ole Porn left his position, he took a small object as a memento of his career, which was the Star Key. Afterward, he died of cancer, and his relatives auctioned off the Star Key, which happened to be purchased by Zhang Xin. Remembering up to this point, Liu Yao suddenly recalled something. Derek Biological Laboratory was later reopened as a branch of the evil laboratory he had destroyed in Yakolun. It was there that he met Colonel Reynolds. And the laboratory he oversaw, which conducted the mind control project, was the reopened Derek Biological Laboratory. At the same time, there was an interesting coincidence. Liu Yao searched his memories and recalled his first conversation with Colonel Reynolds, who had introduced himself. "I'm Reynold Byrne, you can call me Reynolds." Tracing back this memory clearly, Liu Yao had a thought. Reynolds' surname is also Byrne, the same as the first owner of the Star Key, and both men had worked at the same place in succession. Coincidence? Probably not. It seems the answer lies in Derek Biological Laboratory. That place also has a more resounding name. Star Alliance Country Army Biological Laboratory. At this moment, some civilians of the Star Alliance country found it interesting to discover that Liu Yao was flying in this direction. They went to Liu Yao's social media account to leave a message. "Hey Superman, come to New York City, I saw they hid many antiques in the Federal Reserve Bank vault, you'll definitely need them." "No, no, no, come to Angel City, where we have Edwards Air Force Base." "Superman, I sincerely invite you to our capital city. This place is infested with damn politicians who've got nothing but fat in their brains, and greedy vampires inside the banks. But the most despicable are the demons from the Derek Biological Laboratory. My aunt was brainwashed by those demons and died a tragic death." The last invitation received the highest number of likes. The main aim of these people inviting Liu Yao to their cities, in fact, was to shoot videos to make money. Videos related to Liu Yao, as long as they were made with a bit of effort, could easily exceed 100 million views. On YouTube, this represented an income of $1 million, not to mention the huge fame it would bring. Moreover, Superman wouldn't harm civilians, and would even rescue them when faced with danger. Some people had already become famous this way. It was a win-win situation, prompting many to follow suit. While the general public was enthusiastic in their welcome, the elite grew anxious. The Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, and the Foreign Affairs Bureau immediately established a joint command center to deal with this special attack. Commander Jackson, who had been in charge of defending the capital, despite his repeated failures, was still experienced and was brought in. He was somewhat relieved. "My defense zone is the capital. This time, I'm just an advisor, and certainly won't have to face that monster." While things were in disarray in the Star Alliance country, Liu Yao had already flown halfway there. At the moment, he was above the Arctic Ocean, admiring the planet's magnetic fields through the perspective of heavenly eye. Through this special vision, the magnetic field appeared in a brilliant purple, originating from the South Pole and pointing towards the North Pole, like a pair of vividly colored wings, dressing up the entire planet like a butterfly. While admiring, he could also use the planet's magnetic fields to navigate, just like birds do. But just as he was about to reach the mainland of the Star Alliance country, Liu Yao suddenly noticed 8 F-22 fighter jets roaring through the sky, coming towards him. Target spotted, approaching. Reached attack position, weapons ready, prepare to attack. At this moment, inside the operational command center of the Department of Defense, many high-ranking officials stared at the giant screen with grim expressions. The 8 fighters had locked onto the target, and the next second, missiles were launched. The Star Alliance country was, of course, aware of the potency of Liu Yao's flying sword and therefore did not dare to get too close. The fighter jets launched AIM-120 air-to-air missiles from a distance of 50 kilometers away. Bring it on, just the right opportunity to test out some moves. Liu Yao reached out and summoned the flying sword. The Long Chuan sword emitted a vast sonic boom, and shot out at supersonic speed. In the spirit-refining state, the trajectory of the flying sword was planned within milliseconds. The Long Chuan sword maneuvered unbelievably smoothly through the air, slicing through the middle of each missile in succession, precisely destroying their propulsion systems. The incoming missiles, robbed of their balance, either spiraled down or exploded into fireworks mid-air. Not one got within 10 kilometers of Liu Yao. The control distance of the flying sword has increased dramatically. Previously, Liu Yao could only control the flying sword within a range of 15 kilometers, beyond which there would be a huge delay and a loss of power. But now, even from a distance of 50 kilometers, he felt no discomfort. It was as if the sword was an extension of his arm. Just as Zhou He said, there's a control distance of nearly 100 kilometers. He also said that the Wudang sect has a secret technique that can increase the sword control distance to 500 kilometers. I'll definitely have to acquire it once I'm back in the other world. At that moment, Liu Yao felt that the dramatic increase in his sword control distance, allowing him to take an enemy's head from 100 miles away, was truly wonderful. Chapter 406, Replay the Pipa. 8 F-22 fighter jets roared through the sky at high speeds, the moisture in the air condensing into a sonic boom cloud around their wings. They never came within 50 kilometers of Liu Yao, only skirting around and launching missiles to harass. Liu Yao was about to use his flying sword to settle these flies when he suddenly remembered. The Pipa charm hadn't seen action for a long time. It was a good opportunity to warm up, to avoid being flustered when facing a strong enemy. He immediately spat out the Pipa charm, glowing with radiant light, and held it in his hand. It was at that moment that Liu Yao sensed a threat rapidly approaching from below. Looking down on the boundless sea below him, the missile tubes of a Burke-class destroyer opened one by one. Billowing smoke and flames erupted as 4 Standard 2 hypersonic missiles soared into the air, whistling towards Liu Yao's position. The missiles had a flight speed of 2.5 times the speed of sound and were expected to hit the target in 10 seconds. These were shipborne missiles, several times more powerful than the air-to-air missiles carried by the fighter jets. The fighter jets also launched missiles at this time. A total of 12 missiles from the air and sea intended to use dense firepower to obliterate the target. So these fighter jets also have the task of using infrared detectors to lock onto me, Liu Yao thought. Liu Yao sat leisurely on the dragon's head, not the least bit flustered, the pipa already in hand, ready for a song. The overwhelming force of the mind force from the divine manifestation poured into the cherished instrument as a rendition of waves sifting sand vibrated forth. The bass strings clattered like heavy rain, the urgent sound of the pipa echoing through heaven and earth, audible even to the pilots in the jets 50 kilometers away. One should know that the cockpits were soundproofed, and the pilots were wearing specialized helmets and tactical headsets, which should have made it impossible for them to hear outside sounds. What's that sound? Did you guys hear it? It's the sound of a pipa, a strange pipa melody. Why is there the sound of a pipa? As they shared their confusion over the channel, sudden bursts of noise blared over the radio. One of the fighter jets, previously flying smoothly, suddenly seemed to be struck by something, emitting a piercing metallic tearing noise. The pilot, startled, could only instinctively hug his head, but by the next second, the jet was already disintegrating in mid-air. Mayday, mayday! A friendly has been shot down. What the hell? We're under attack. Ah! All the missiles have been shot down too. At that moment, one could see the 12 blazingly fast tail-flamed missiles being sequentially shot down. And the pilots saw clearly what was attacking them. Many swallow-shaped invisible blades appeared in the air, as transparent as chunks of ice, but still visible under the sunlight. It was these that had destroyed the missiles and the airplanes, and they even had tracking capability. The pilot leading the squadron witnessed firsthand as one of his wingmen, although having made evasive tactical maneuvers, was still pursued and hit by an invisible blade, his wing chopped off, leaving him to spiral powerlessly into a fall. While the sound of the pipa still filled his ears, he suddenly realized, it's the pipa. These blades appeared along with the sound of the pipa. Unfortunately, this revelation was of no use whatsoever. Liu Yao went all out from the beginning, unleashing the full power of the invisible pipa blades. He had always kept the pipa charm as a trump card, rarely used. Finally, he enjoyed playing it thoroughly. As Liu Yao plucked the strings rapidly, rows upon rows of invisible blades scattered in all directions. These blades, carrying the power of the mind force, were like drones programmed with set instructions, cutting towards their targets at twice the speed of sound. They were extremely powerful. A direct hit could cleave a whole fighter jet in two. The incoming missiles were the first to be blasted apart, followed by the 8 F-22s. The fighter jets were cleaved in midair one by one, turning into neatly edged parts, so clean-cut that it attested to the sharpness of the sonic blades. With the last leading jet chopped into several pieces by the invisible blades, the sky quieted down, leaving only parachutes gently descending. Liu Yao stopped playing the pipa and, without caring about the ejecting pilots, patted the golden dragon's horn and continued flying toward his target. The coastline was already in sight from afar. At this moment, the time left for the Star Alliance country was running out. In the command room, the expressions on the faces of several high-ranking officials were looking rather grim. General Rams from the Defense Department, as the military representative, should have been urgently issuing further instructions, and most people in the command room were looking at him. But he remained silent, instead turning his gaze toward the representative from the Foreign Affairs Bureau. Vice Director Hogan. Hogan stood up and said, "According to intelligence assessments, conventional weapons have become ineffective against the target. Dr. Reynolds has repeatedly recommended the use of high-yield nuclear bombs to eliminate the adversary. 3 minutes ago, you obtained authorization from the President and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff." With that statement, a military officer with the rank of Major walked over carrying a briefcase, the infamous nuclear football. General Ram's eyes twitched imperceptibly. Utilizing nuclear weapons would inevitably have a severe impact on the entire situation on Blue Star, not to mention on their own soil. The person issuing the order would inevitably bear all responsibility. Not only would their career come to an end, but there was also a high probability of ending up in jail. These son of a bitches. General Ram seethed with rage internally. It was clear that they were making him assume the responsibility. When did the Star Alliance country become like this? Just then, a female military officer responsible for intelligence work suddenly said, "The target has entered our national airspace. Based on its trajectory, his destination is the Derek Biological Laboratory." Hearing this, no one in the room showed any sign of surprise. They all knew Liu Yao had an unpleasant history with Dr. Reynolds, and it seemed likely he was going there for retribution. General Rams felt a surge of relief and said with a stern face and raised tone, "Since we know the enemy's target, we can fully set a trap and wait for the prey. There's no need to resort to nuclear bombs, the military has more suitable weapons." Not having to drop nuclear bombs on their own territory naturally pleased everyone. After all, they had the general to take the fall. Vice Director Hogan also nodded in approval and then sat back down. Originally, Liu Yao thought that he would have to fight upon landing and it would take some effort to locate Reynolds. But it seemed the Star Alliance country had given up the resistance, allowing him to approach the biological laboratory's location in Derek City, Mali State, without any obstruction. Moreover, when he arrived, the biological laboratory was already sealed off, with the 1,200-acre campus empty and silent. But there was a group of internet celebrities and journalists with various equipment blocking the entrance. Liu Yao retracted the willpower golden dragon and leapt down from mid-air, creating a large crater with a thunderous crash upon the ground. Dust and small stones flew in all directions, but the internet celebrities and journalists rushed over without the slightest hesitation for an interview. "Mr. Liu Yao, have you come to destroy the Derek Biological Laboratory? There's a rumor that your good friend suffered from brain control torment. Is this the reason for your visit?" The biological laboratory was quite infamous here. At least 7,000 Star Alliance countries' own soldiers had been exposed as having been used for biochemical weapon trials. The brain control program was even more notorious, with many civilians suffering from mental disorders used in brainwashing experiments. Its reputation was equivalent to combining Professor Yang's Electrotherapy Center and Yuzhang Academy and then raising it to the power of 100. When word spread that Liu Yao was coming here to demolish the place, the citizens of the Star Alliance country truly wept for joy. Liu Yao revealed a warm smile, and said to the cameras, "The reason for my visit is similar to the rumors. Next, I will seek justice for those who have been harmed." Chapter 407, Double Surprise. The scene was somewhat magical, and to the uninformed observer, it might have looked as if the media was swarming a top-tier celebrity. Liu Yao made a "hello, comrades" gesture as he walked toward the park, surrounded by media personnel of all skin colors and ages, both men and women. They shouted questions one after another, creating a chaotic scene as they jostled each other. But this also showed that public sentiment could be utilized, and Liu Yao was very pleased, as it was all positive willpower. As he walked on, he suddenly said, "You'd better hurry and leave. The military won't care about your lives." The crowd suddenly fell silent. It hadn't been long since the cruise missile incident, and Beth, the female anchor, had experienced it firsthand. Even the least powerful cruise missiles could easily annihilate ordinary people within 100 meters. If Liu Yao hadn't blown it up from 5 kilometers away, she would have been reduced to dust. Thinking of this, those who just thought interviewing Superman was cool had already begun to quietly retreat and leave. But most people stood their ground and didn't move, only taking out protective gear like motorcycle helmets to put on, clearly willing to take risks for potential rewards. Liu Yao was somewhat speechless, but people choose their own paths, so he could only wish them luck. Beth, the female anchor, even shouted a reminder, "Mr. Liu Yao. The main body of the biological laboratory is underground, be careful of traps." Having seen this young lady's fearless presence time and again, Liu Yao had remembered her, and he smiled warmly, "Miss Beth, thank you for your concern. I am already prepared." Beth was broadcasting live. Although her educational background was not high and she didn't have much solid content, her several fearless live broadcasts had led her fan count to break through 10 million, with nearly 20 million people watching online, putting her at the forefront among the internet celebrities relying on Liu Yao. At that moment, viewers were sending a barrage of messages. Superman spoke to the anchor. So the anchor really does know Superman, she wasn't bragging. Anchor, try to ask him out on a date, I'm willing to pay $10 million for Superman's body fluids, hair. PM for details. The last statement was made by someone who had tipped $10,000, accompanied by eye-catching animated effects that were hard to miss. This was clearly someone from a major pharmaceutical company or a research institution, and for a time, the live chat became even more chaotic. Just as Beth was about to take action, Liu Yao had already leaped away and disappeared, the gust he left behind causing everyone to squint their eyes. The Derek Biological Laboratory Park covered a vast area of 1,200 acres, with all the necessary facilities. Viewed from above, it looked more like a university campus rather than a fearsome research base for biochemical weapons. By now, the park had been evacuated and was deathly quiet, with only drones in the sky and the occasional bird adding a touch of life. Extending his mind force, Liu Yao sensed 3 familiar presences in the main building in the center. A cold smile appeared on his lips, and he walked straight over. This building was the central laboratory, where all biochemical experiments were conducted. Its design style was consistent with the Yukolun facility he had seen before. However, the core area was underground and required taking an elevator to reach. When Liu Yao got there, the elevator doors were wide open, as if inviting him in. He glanced at the camera above the entrance and calmly entered. The doors closed immediately, taking him underground. Seeing this, everyone in the combat command room became jubilant. He actually went inside, just like that, he boldly entered the underground confined space. General Rams remained outwardly calm, but his fists were clenched tightly. Such arrogance, such contempt for modern weapons, he will surely pay the price for this. Deputy Director Hogan was also exhilarated. Arrogance is the product of ignorance, and it is the prelude to destruction. Have you prepared the mother of bombs? I can't wait to see that spectacular sight. In an atmosphere of joy, one man's expression was extremely grim, Colonel Reynolds. At the moment, he was in the command room as a consultant and still insisted on his opinion. General Rams, even if the target has willingly entered the underground confined space, the mother of bombs you've prepared might not be enough to kill him. Adjusting his glasses, Reynolds continued to persuade, to be safe, please be sure to use a nuclear bomb. Just one 100 kiloton W80 warhead is enough. The fallout from detonating it underground will be negligible. Enough. General Ram's eyes twitched as he said coldly, "Colonel Reynolds, as a soldier, I will under no circumstances allow the use of nuclear weapons on our own soil." Reynolds looked at him with an indignant expression, but inwardly he was scoffing, "You're just afraid of taking responsibility, you coward." Although General Rams ruthlessly rejected the suggestion of using nuclear bombs, to be on the safe side, he still ordered, "Send the fighter jet to drop a GBU-57 from the air, to give our Superman a double surprise along with the pre-planted mother of bombs." In the underground core area, papers and office equipment were scattered around, as if the evacuation had been very hasty. Guided by the mind force, Liu Yao passed through corridor after corridor, arriving in front of a metal isolation door. He sighed and grasped the door handle. With the hiss of the negative air pressure, the door was pulled open. And what waited behind the door was his long-lost uncle's family. After being captured by the Foreign Affairs Bureau, Liu Yao had always stayed out of it. He hadn't expected to be used as bait this time. As soon as they saw Liu Yao, the faces of his uncle's family turned beet red with anger. For years they had been tortured every day, living a life worse than pigs and dogs, all because of the man before them. Their mentality exploded on the spot, and they surrounded Liu Yao, hurling insults. "You little beast! What did you do to offend the Star Alliance country, making us take the fall for you? You dog! Do you know how we've suffered these years? Have you been caught too? Great! Now we can suffer together." The three had been imprisoned and weren't aware of the extent of Liu Yao's actions, and as they became more incensed, they actually rushed up to try to beat him. But their hands passed right through Liu Yao as if he were just a ghostly image. This sight stunned his uncle's family on the spot, and the uncle tried again, not believing the truth, only to find that the person before him was still intangible. You, they pointed at Liu Yao, unable to utter a complete sentence. Liu Yao smiled and said, "You all have suffered so much, yet you haven't learned your lesson, still the same as ever. Enjoy the fireworks before you die." "What fireworks?" Just as the uncle finished asking this question, a blinding light exploded. In the midst of a deafening roar, a mini-sun suddenly appeared in the underground laboratory. The pre-planted mother of bombs had been detonated. This was an extremely large thermobaric weapon developed by the Star Alliance country. Over 9 meters long, more than a meter in diameter, and weighing an impressive 9.5 tons. Once detonated, blinding light filled every space in an instant, generating a scorching temperature of 2,500 degrees, melting even the reinforcing steel bars, and naturally, his uncle's family was instantly turned to ash. Besides the intense heat, there was also the terrifying blast wave. Within a radius of 300 meters, everything instantly endured an overpressure of up to 14 kilograms per square centimeter. The shock wave from a nuclear weapon is of this magnitude. Under such force, everything crumbled like biscuits, and the underground laboratory collapsed into a giant crater on the spot. In the Operations Command Center, Deputy Director Hogan nodded in satisfaction. With such terrifying heat and shock waves, the mother of bombs is essentially a small nuclear weapon. And it wasn't over yet. At this moment, a fighter jet flew overhead and dropped a GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator. This large-scale, precision-guided bunker buster bomb, known as the Bunker Buster, can destroy hardened underground military facilities. The bomb drilled into the underground laboratory and detonated, and in the deafening explosion, a large section of the complex was blown sky-high. For a moment, the entire Derek Biological Laboratory was engulfed in thick smoke and dust, a sight to behold. With a grin, Liu Yao watched all this unfold, a figure with 3 heads and 6 arms appearing behind him. It was only his divine soul that had entered the underground. He wasn't foolish. His physical body was, of course, safely elsewhere. Chapter 408, Alternate Plan. Accompanied by 2 thunderous booms, the entire laboratory, both underground and above ground, turned into construction debris, along with hundreds of tons of sand and soil that were flung into the sky. A crater over 100 meters in diameter appeared on the ground, and various debris fell from a kilometer up in the sky, turning the whole park dark and shadowy, with no clarity of light and shade. At this moment, Liu Yao was hiding in another building, watching the excitement and witnessing this spectacular scene with his own eyes. After performing the soul-embellishing technique, his figure was lifelike. Even his hair seemed to carry the effect of a silky hair product, tricking a crowd and needlessly setting off 2 huge fireworks. Just as he was about to reveal himself, he suddenly discovered that the building he was in was also a laboratory, but one that researched chemical weapons, many types of radioactive materials were stored in a safe, a complete assortment of varieties. Amidst the piercing sound of metal being torn and snapped, Liu Ya ripped open the safe and placed each thermos-shaped metal container into his space-time bubble, accepting them all with a smile. Then, looking at the quickly dissipating dust, he spoke softly, "It's time to get to the real work." Behind him, a shadow with 3 heads and 6 arms gradually solidified, infused with the power of Yan Huang from within the stone lion. At that time, countless people were rendered speechless by the earth-shattering explosion, as it's rare to see such a scene in reality. Looking at the hundreds of tons of construction debris lifted into the air, and the large crater on the ground the size of a reservoir, it was more vivid and explosive than the movie scenes with only fire and no substance. Is Superman dead? No way. Everyone was looking for Liu Yao's figure, but after a good while with no sight of him, they started having grim speculations in their hearts. In Beth's live broadcast room, the barrage was frantically flooding the screen. Even a machine gun could hurt him, this explosion akin to a mini-nuclear blast could have likely killed him. Even the steel reinforcement melted, the explosion must have been the military's mother of bombs, the second blast was clearly a gigantic bunker buster. He was too careless, or rather arrogant, to actually go into a confined underground environment. In the midst of the chaos, the Operation Command Center was also searching for Liu Yao's figure. General Rams maintained a calm exterior, but his clenched fists betrayed his tension at the time. Colonel Reynolds directly took over the UAV's controls, piloting the reconnaissance drone at an ultra-low altitude to ascertain whether Liu Yao was dead or alive. The armored units have already rushed to the scene. Have them confirm the target's status as soon as possible. The Air Force and missile units, be ready, even if the target isn't dead, he must have been severely injured. Previous calculations and simulations were very certain that Liu Yao's bodily defense was equivalent to that of an armored vehicle, and his chances of surviving such catastrophic explosions were very small. Just as orders were being relayed, Colonel Reynolds suddenly widened his eyes in shock. Others quickly noticed the anomaly, their breaths frozen. My God! Jesus! At that moment, as the dust slowly settled, a figure slowly became visible. Half of Blue Star's population was stunned into silence by the sight of this figure. It was simply too large. At that time, the Predator drone operated by Colonel Reynolds was 7 meters long, but it looked like a toy in front of this figure, no bigger than the size of a palm. What in the world is this thing? Soon, a 100-meter-tall figure with 3 heads and 6 arms, resembling a god or devil, emerged between heaven and earth. Oh my God! Oh my God! Do you see it? Do you see it? Beth and a few others, who were not afraid of death, carried their equipment to the closest spot and filmed frantically. Compared to the drone's live stream, many wealthy individuals preferred the thrill of being on the scene. Their boldness wasn't just driven by a desire for excitement amidst danger but also because the 3 faces on the artifact resembled Liu Yao's exactly. At that moment, all live streaming platforms on Blue Star were overwhelmed by a barrage of comments. Law of Heaven and Earth. This is definitely the law of heaven and earth. Wasn't it only over 10 meters tall? Idiot, size can change. Journey to the West even had characters as tall as 30,000 feet. At that moment, suddenly a roaring noise erupted. It was the arriving armored troops opening fire. 10 or so M1A2 tanks were seen frantically unleashing firepower at the 100-meter-tall Heart Phantom, utterly disregarding the presence of Beth and others nearby. The explosion of the cannonballs was far more shocking than imagined, promptly dizzying the Daredevil live streamers with a ringing in their ears, damaging their semicircular canals and causing them to lose their balance and fall to the ground. At the same time, 4 armed helicopters were also unleashing havoc from above. Machine guns and rocket artillery rained down like torrents, leaving brilliant red trajectories in the sky. Good, a perfect opportunity to test the defense of the Heart Phantom. Before we've tested Flying Sword and Pipa, this time we'll use the Star Alliance country's military to assess the various attributes of the Heart Phantom, said Liu Yao with confidence, as he wasn't actually inside the Heart Phantom. At this moment, he was manipulating the Heart Phantom in the same way he would control the Flying Sword. That was a capability he had acquired by breaking through with his own power, allowing him to remotely operate it. Facing the incoming artillery fire, Beth and the others instinctively let out shrieks. At this critical juncture, the 3-headed, 6-armed sky-lifting titan stood up to shield them. For a time, various types of cannonballs and rockets exploded upon the giant's body, bringing forth intense flashes of fire and clouds of smoke. The smoke was so thick that it obscured the godly and demonic figure. Liu Yao's act of bravely rescuing civilians garnered countless fans, and the wish-power ratio, originally at 70-30, was trending towards 80-20. Beth was moved to tears by the scene, and her eyes were filled with worry as she looked toward where Liu Yao was. When the barrage eased for a moment and the smoke cleared, the magnificent Heart Phantom reappeared before the eyes of the world. The Star Alliance Army's assault had indeed been effective, as their armor-piercing weapons could penetrate armor almost a meter thick. The Heart Phantom's body was covered in pits and dents of all sizes, but the expressions of the several people in the combat command room were very grim. That was because those wounds were healing at a visibly rapid pace, returning to pristine condition after just a few breaths. Liu Yao nodded to himself. Using wish power to rapidly heal wounds can be applied in a war of attrition. After that, he slightly moved his fingers. The Heart Phantom picked up a 3-story building nearby and hurled it at the distant armored troops. This was apparently a combination of a restaurant and a gym within the laboratory complex, but now, it whistled through the air, turning into the most terrifying cannonball, and instantly smashed onto 3 tanks. A loud explosion and a cloud of smoke rose into the air as the tanks were crushed out of shape and buried under the debris, motionless. At this moment, all the armored troops began to turn around to retreat. They had no intention of continuing to fight against the Heart Phantom, which seemed like a god or demon. Liu Yao controlled the Heart Phantom to grab a Raptor pickup truck and fiercely toss it into the sky. Amidst the horrifying screech, a military helicopter was struck mid-air and exploded into a fireball. They scattered as well, retreating swiftly without hesitation. The commander madly requested reinforcements. This was simply not a monster that could be dealt with by conventional weaponry. Liu Yao said to Beth, "All right, quickly," leave his voice booming like thunder. "Thank you, thank you." Beth and the others exclaimed excitedly as they captured the footage. The next second, the sky-lifting Titan turned and headed in the direction of the capital. At this very moment, inside the combat command room, General Rams was looking at the nuclear football, sweat covering his forehead. Colonel Reynolds urged, "General, there's no time left. That monster is moving at a speed close to 300 km per hour, please issue the nuclear strike command immediately. A low-yield nuclear weapon. Can it really kill that monster?" However, the one raising doubts was Deputy Director Hogan. He looked at General Rams and said in a low voice, "Or perhaps, we should use the alternative plan." Chapter 409, Within an hour. General Rams was only the Deputy Minister of the Defense Department, and he was authorized for a W-80 nuclear bomb with a yield of 150,000 tons. The real trump card, an intercontinental ballistic missile carrying a nuclear warhead with a yield of 1 million tons, was certainly out of his reach. Having witnessed the power of mind resonance, even Deputy Director Hogan from the Foreign Affairs Bureau doubted whether a small-yield nuclear bomb would be effective and proposed using the alternative plan. General Rams never wanted to press the damned nuclear button in the first place. He immediately became conflicted. The alternative plan. Just at that moment, a staffer suddenly shouted, "The target's speed has drastically increased. My God! It's broken the sound barrier." Everyone hurriedly looked at the large screen, only to see Liu Yao operating mind resonance to activate Zai Xing Shen and break through the sound barrier. Such a large figure pulling off this kind of feat instantly caused a hurricane. Tall weeping willows were uprooted by the strong winds. Many buildings instantly lost their roofs, cars rolled and smashed into the sidewalks like toys, and their powerless anti-theft alarms wailed. Witnessing this scene, General Rams sighed, closing the nuclear button suitcase in front of him. Colonel Reynolds, seeing this, immediately became extremely anxious. Today, Liu Yao must die. Otherwise, with this monster looming, he wouldn't be able to sleep peacefully for the rest of his life. He hastily said, "Gentlemen, listen to me. Right now, we are the last line of defense and hope for our nation." Reynolds calmly met each person's gaze. "The 600,000 citizens of the entire capital urgently need our protection. Our allies are watching us. We hold the most powerful weapon of Blue Star in our hands. How can we show fear or shrink back?" As he got into his stride, Reynolds waved his hand and shouted loudly. "The monster tries to use atrocities to make us fear and submit. But its malicious scheming will not succeed. Because we will stop it. Every citizen of Blue Star will remember today. We will personally defend freedom and all the beautiful and righteous things in the world." At that moment, everyone in the command center was moved by this impassioned speech. They nodded repeatedly and gradually began to clap. The applause grew louder and soon swept through the entire venue. Reynolds nodded in acknowledgement all around, becoming the most sparkling focus. As he was feeling proud, a shadow unexpectedly flashed by and with a thud, Reynolds rolled his eyes and was knocked unconscious. It turned out Deputy Director Hogan had at some point come up behind him and had struck him viciously on the back of the neck. Hogan pulled out a handkerchief to wipe his hands and told his subordinates, "Tie him up and put him in the car." The crowd that had been clapping was suddenly frozen in place, a hush fell over them. By now, Liu Yao had already arrived at the Star Alliance capital. Shuttling through the bustling urban city with towering buildings, each step he took left massive footprints, shaking the ground incessantly, very much in the style of Pacific Rim. The elites had long since left on airplanes, and the government had issued an emergency evacuation order. However, few ordinary people had left, and they were currently taking pictures of Liu Yao with various devices. Many youngsters stood on rooftop terraces, holding up their phones for selfies with the majestic three-headed, six-armed mind resonance as Liu Yao passed by. Then they posted the photos online, racking up loads of likes and comments of envy and jealousy. Add to that the crowds busy with $0 purchases, and it was quite lively for a time. Nevertheless, there were also angry patriots who shouted slogans and fired their guns at Liu Yao. "You devil! God will punish you!" Liu Yao casually flicked his finger, and the not-so-clear-headed person, along with countless pieces of building debris, was obliterated. Many who were in the midst of revelry suddenly sobered up quite a bit, realizing that this person was no pushover. Amidst the noise, Liu Yao headed straight for the National Square. He always had a question: Xia country had the Yan Huang forces, so what would Star Alliance country have? Although it caused trouble everywhere, leading to turmoil in many regions, it was still the #1 superpower of Blue Star. Could the entire nation's willing power not create a magical treasure? With this question in mind, Liu Yao arrived at the place with many iconic buildings, where national celebrations and ceremonies took place. Opening his heavenly eye for a look, he immediately clutched his chest in shock. It was the first time he had encountered such negative willing power. Extinction, plundering, instigation, chaos, collapse. These were exactly what the Star Alliance country had been doing since its establishment. However, this thing couldn't be said to be useless. It was extremely powerful for spirit-refining practitioners and could definitely contaminate the divine soul in an instant. Liu Yao looked around for a suitable vessel to hold it and quickly found his target. "There you are, it's you." He strode over to the Capitol monument. This was a 170-meter-tall marble obelisk, which from a distance looked like an iron mace standing on the ground. Just as Liu Yao was about to start, a black Chevrolet SUV suddenly sped over. "Stop! Stop! Please wait a moment." Deputy Director Hogan jumped out of the car and shouted repeatedly. The subordinate driving the car whispered a reminder. "The signals in this area have been blocked, the outside world can at most see images. Besides the President and the generals, no one will know what you're saying." Hogan nodded and dragged Reynolds out of the car, pulling him over. Reynolds struggled violently. But as a civilian, he was no match for Deputy Director Hogan, who had been promoted from a frontline operative and easily overpowered him. The two quickly approached Liu Yao. The suit-clad Hogan looked up and shouted in fluent Xia language, rather formally. "Good day, Mr. Liu Yao, I am Deputy Director of the Foreign Affairs Bureau." "Hogan. Our previous interactions were not pleasant, but today I come to you with goodwill to talk. To show my sincerity, I've brought the main culprit of the entire incident." Having said that, he pushed Reynolds forward. The doctor, who had lost his usual composure and sense of humor, was now in an embarrassing state, with his hands tied behind his back and his mouth sealed, only able to make muffled noises. Liu Yao instantly understood the man's predicament. "So you've been abandoned? How pitiful!" Deputy Director Hogan continued to shout. "Continuing this hostility benefits neither of us. As the saying goes, it's better to settle a dispute than to intensify it. We can entirely put our resentment aside and look forward." As the #1 rival, these intelligence officers who started from the front lines could speak the Xia language fluently, even the proverbs. Liu Yao laughed and said, "Oh? And how do you propose we look forward?" Hogan replied, "We can fully cooperate and turn a new page in the history of Blue Star. Our side can help you found a nation, so you can enjoy the pleasures of being an emperor. For example, by constructing an imperial palace filled with concubines." "Ha ha ha," with a thunderous laugh, Liu Yao glanced at the man with all three faces. "That's funny. Do you take me for some kind of warlord?" Hogan was choked up in an instant, but he still managed not to fall. If you choose war, then the entire world will be your funeral. He was referring to nuclear weapons. Liu Yao didn't speak because words were the most powerless weapons. He suddenly unleashed Tathagata palm, Buddha shakes the mountains and rivers, slamming it onto the ground behind him. A deafening explosion resounded, countless plants, earth, sand, and stones shot up into the sky. A fan-shaped pit as big as a soccer field and over 2 meters deep appeared on the ground. As a demonstration of power, Liu Yao deliberately spread the force to increase the visual effect, knowing that if he were hitting someone, the more concentrated the better. Hogan was thrown over 10 meters away by the blast wave, got up in disarray, and stared dumbfounded at the huge crater that had appeared out of nowhere. Liu Yao spoke directly, "Within 1 hour, I want to see 100 tons of gold, 100 tons of silver, 100 cruise missiles, and launching equipment. If you can't manage that, then prepare to say goodbye to the capital." Liu Yao made his demands based on the loading capacity of the Star Key. When Hogan heard this, he collapsed on the spot, and the president and senior officials listening through the earpiece were instantly soaked with cold sweat down their backs. Chapter 410, Great Harvest. Liu Yao's 3 demands were precisely at the psychological bottom line of the Star Alliance country. If it were for nuclear bombs or the like, they would rather shatter both the jade and the stone. But 100 tons of gold and silver meant nothing to the nation. Although 100 cruise missiles were sensitive, the Star Alliance had plenty of other military stocks piled up. Deputy Director Hogan's eyes darted around, and subconsciously he wanted to bargain. Liu Yao couldn't be bothered to waste time, and with a sudden movement, 6 arms stretched towards the sky, guiding the sinister forces pouring down from the heavens, infusing into the obelisk. This pure and ultimate negative willpower had no sooner descended than it destroyed all electronic devices within a radius of 10 kilometers. Deputy Director Hogan and his entourage only felt a slight aftermath, immediately leading to blood pouring from every orifice, their bodily functions all thrown into chaos. Pain, dizziness, nausea to the point of convulsions, the suffering was on par with late-stage cancer. Fortunately, Liu Yao quickly reined it in, minimizing the impact. Deputy Director Hogan and others barely managed to get up, their faces as pale as paper. At this moment, the group stared blankly at the sky, unable to utter a single word. In the high heavens, a pitch-black funnel cloud appeared, overshadowing the entire capital like an upturned mountain range. In an instant, the world turned dark, countless flocks of birds flew about in panic, pets such as cats and dogs, and even rats from the sewers and various insects, frantically scattered in all directions, creating a scene reminiscent of the end of the world. At this very moment, numerous satellites and monitoring agencies detected tremendous fluctuations in the magnetic field here. The horrific funnel cloud in the sky slowly rotated, directly above the obelisk. Throughout the 300 years since the founding of the Star Alliance country, it had caused no small amount of chaos, waging numerous wars, toppling at least 36 countries and governments, leading to the deaths of over 20 million people. Who knows how many souls had cast their deeply rooted, venomous curses upon it. The curses were too dense and vast. Normally, these forces would slowly dissipate in the river of history, but now, guided by Liu Yao, they gathered together, manifesting in the physical world. While Hogan and the rest remained petrified by the apocalyptic scene, Liu Yao casually spoke from the left side of his face, "I will wait 1 hour, you may leave." The deputy director, who originated from the ranks of frontline agents, didn't dare to utter another word, scrambling away as fast as he could. Keeping the Star Alliance country busy, Liu Yao then focused his attention on creating a special magical treasure. At this moment, new drones had arrived to film, and the people of the whole Blue Star witnessed the spectacular scene. A demon god with 3 heads and 6 arms held the sky aloft, and the obscuring funnel cloud that seemed to be eagerly pouring into the National Memorial Cup. Countless people commented through live feeds. The dark clouds in the sky look so evil. Did God spill his ink bottle? There goes another magical treasure creation. But why does this not seem like a good sign? Right, it looks like a demonic sex magical treasure. The netizens had it right. Liu Yao was currently engaged in the creation of a magical treasure meant for malevolent purposes. As negative energy continuously infused, the towering obelisk transformed rapidly into a black color, with an oily, revolting sheen. To a normal person, this sight would instinctively evoke disgust and fear, just as the sight of a scorpion would. Liu Yao, however, was exhilarated. The obelisk that had witnessed the whole history of the nation possessed a terrifying ability to absorb energy, and it might become a mighty magical treasure. Gathering his strength, he guided the willpower to infuse until he felt increasingly strained. It's almost reaching its limit. Realizing this, Liu Yao let out a thunderous roar, exerting his last bit of strength for a final, forceful infusion. The obelisk suddenly uprooted itself and began to rise slowly. Along with its foundation, the structure now exceeded 200 meters in length. Such a colossus was suspended in mid-air. As negative willpower was forcibly infused like an avalanche, the obelisk finally reached its limit. Fine cracks appeared on its surface, followed by a visible fluctuation that rapidly spread outwards, and the external layer of the obelisk burst apart violently. Within an endless radiance of holy light, a 200-meter-long giant club emerged between heaven and earth. The shimmering object was unmistakably a magical treasure. A magical treasure born amidst the epitome of negative forces. Haha, interesting, Liu Yao found it amusing. The obelisk was originally emitting a deathly black and shiny light that looked very intimidating. But after transforming into a magical treasure, it appeared exceptionally bright and radiant, emitting a holy white light. But that was only on the surface. Liu Yao could distinctly sense the endless malice contained within it, extermination, collapse, decay, to the point where he didn't even want to touch it. This magical treasure is coated in a layer of holy sugar, but filled with potent poison inside. I'll name you the Blade of Freedom. It must be quite useful for underhanded tricks. Acquiring a magical treasure was, after all, a pleasant experience. Just as Liu Yao was happily assigning a name to the toxic needle, the Star Alliance country finally made a decision. Deputy Director Hogan returned in just 40 minutes, having transformed back into a slick-suited, hair-gelled elite. Mr. Liu Yao, our side agrees to all your requests. The items have been delivered to Andrews Air Force Base, and you can collect them anytime, he said. That's quite efficient. We hope this will mark a good new beginning for our relationship. Please, exercise restraint, as we are very sincere. Deputy Director Hogan's words carried a very humble tone, with a hint of undeniable fear. For the scene now was too terrifying. A funnel-shaped mass of dark clouds pressed down on the capital, covering the entire city as if the sky would collapse the next second. And in the high sky, a steel needle over 100 meters long was suspended. Under such a daunting presence, mere mortals felt like ants in the face of heaven's collapse, devoid of any will to resist, only wishing to quickly pay a price to dismiss the plague deity. Little did they know, this was the culmination of hundreds of years of misdeeds, a reflection of sinister force. Liu Yao merely gave a slight nudge, causing a stone to roll down the mountain peak, which triggered a landslide. The Blade of Freedom, dangerous and nauseating, was not something Liu Yao wanted to carry on him or store in his divine soul, so he placed it into the space-time bubble. The anomaly between heaven and earth slowly ceased, as sunlight once again spread across the land, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. What followed was a trip to Andrews Air Force Base to collect the remaining benefits. At this moment, the entire Blue Star had witnessed the creation of a magical treasure, and countless respectful and admiring positive willpowers converged. As these could serve as energy for the heart reflection, Liu Yao performed another supersonic charge, arriving at the Air Force Base amidst thunderous booms. Seeing this, the Star Alliance country grew even more cautious, solely focusing on getting the plague deity to leave. Inside the Air Force Base, only a few soldiers were present, shivering as they gazed at the mountainous heart reflection. Liu Yao nonchalantly stuffed 100 tons of gold and silver, along with 100 Tomahawk cruise missiles and a missile launch vehicle, all into the body of the heart reflection. Deputy Director Hogan, with the distraught Reynolds, raced to the site in a mad drive. Upon witnessing this scene, Hogan was curious to probe what Liu Yao intended to do with these missiles. The Star Alliance country would definitely not grant access to satellite control. Without GPS navigation, these missiles were useless and were as good as a sky-piercing monkey. After much contemplation, Hogan still did not dare to speak, as the President and various high-ranking officials from the Department of Defense had issued stringent orders to make Liu Yao leave as soon as possible and to avoid any mishaps in the capital at all costs. As for Liu Yao, it was a spontaneous idea. Could he possibly use the missiles as flying swords? Chapter 411, Reynolds or Aole. Liu Yao unceremoniously took away goods worth billions of dollars. Vice Director Hogan accompanied him throughout the whole process with a smile, even considerately dragging Reynolds over. Liu Yao was quite satisfied with his service and nodded casually, taking Reynolds and turning to leave. At this moment, the Star Alliance capital, especially the National Square, was a complete mess. The landmark structure, the National Monument, had vanished, replaced by a scene of devastation. Moreover, the whole Blue Star had become a laughingstock, its international influence plummeting, with many questioning whether the Star Alliance's hegemony was stable. Vice Director Hogan watched Liu Yao leave, his smile unchanging, but a cold light flickered in his eyes. Both sides had their concerns, this was just a temporary compromise. Mobilize the nation's power. Develop weapons targeted at this monster with full force. By now, this had become the consensus among the upper echelons of the Star Alliance. As for the common folk on the lower strata, they were either gleefully watching the government's predicament or delightfully uploading photos and videos they captured. Those who missed a photo opportunity with the heartthrob were pounding their chests in regret, wishing Liu Yao would come back again. It was a strange country with an exceptionally severe social stratification. Liu Yao retracted his mind force, summoned the willpower golden dragon, grabbed Reynold and flew into the sky, ready to interrogate him. At this time, poor Reynold didn't even have the strength to struggle. But Liu Yao didn't rush to interrogate him, instead, he extended his mind force over Reynold's entire body and discovered a plethora of eavesdropping devices. With a cold laugh, leveraging the formidable strength of the divine manifestation realm, he suddenly increased the output power of his mind force. In the midst of crackling noises, sparks suddenly appeared, creating an effect similar to an electromagnetic pulse, instantly destroying the dozens of listening devices inside and outside Reynold's body. Shocked by this, Reynold suddenly came to his senses and hurriedly spoke. "Listen. We don't have a deep hatred, my targeting you was only out of curiosity and desire for your body. Cooperate with me. I have endless knowledge that can help you understand your body in greater detail, to gain even stronger power. We could easily dominate the entire planet." Liu Yao revealed a mocking smile at the corner of his mouth and ignored the man's words, simply asking. "Reynold Byrne, what is your relation to Ole Horn?" Reynold was slightly stunned, with a puzzled expression. "He's my foster father, who passed away nearly 20 years ago. Why do you ask about him?" His acting was superb, perfectly conveying an utterly baffled emotion. But it was useless in front of Liu Yao, who had already grasped a hint of panic in the man before him. Liu Yao extended his hand, summoned the star key, and asked, "Do you recognize this thing?" Reynold still looked completely baffled. "It seems to be something belonging to my foster father. When he died I was only 12, and I only remember all his possessions were auctioned by my stepmother to repay the bank loan. My foster father had cancer, which cost a lot of money." While he spoke, his heartbeat remained steady, his breathing and eyes showed no sign of irregularity, but a drop of cold sweat seeped through his back. Liu Yao had a clear understanding in his heart, and without wasting any more words, immediately his divine soul left his body and forcefully possessed Reynold. Possession, facing a person with hostility and guard up, and with clear consciousness, required some effort. After all, it was a clash of minds. At this moment, Liu Yao encountered stubborn resistance. Reynold felt a cold current drilling into his forehead and immediately screamed desperately. "What do you want to do to me? You're crazy. I'm a scientist who specializes in brain control projects." His resistance was fierce, but unfortunately, the disparity between the two was even greater than that between a lion and a sheep. Leveraging his immense mind force, Liu Yao forcefully tore through the other's mental defenses, his divine soul directly taking over the Yintang A cup ointment. Reynold's expression became vacant, saliva dripping from the corner of his mouth. Having successfully possessed Reynold, Liu Yao was about to forcefully dominate the other's conscience for interrogation. But upon seeing Reynold's divine soul, his movements couldn't help but slow down. At this moment, he was truly astonished. He saw the soul appearing like festering meat covered with sores. Not only was its shape disgusting, but it also had two types of brainwaves. Previously, Sergi from Yakolun, after being brainwashed, was in this state. But it was extremely obvious at that time, the two brainwaves were very discordant. In Liu Yao's eyes, it was like a person with two heads, spotting it instantly. And Reynold had almost merged into one entity. If Liu Yao had not possessed him, this would have really gone unnoticed. Such a situation has a specific term in the other world. Body possession. Some spirit refinement experts, when left with no other choice, would take over someone else's body. But after all, it's not the original match, generating severe rejection reactions and various incompatibilities, just like the current Reynold. Seeing this, Liu Yao already had some guesses about what had happened to Reynold and couldn't help but be amazed as he said. "I truly didn't expect my first encounter with body possession to be on Blue Star. So, should I call you Reynold, or Ole? Only to see Reynolds' soul tremble violently, and he said in surprise. You can actually invade someone else's consciousness. How did you do that? Earlier I felt a strong bioelectricity. It was brainwaves. Extremely high-frequency brainwaves. My God! Your beta wave frequency is at least 7.5 MHz. That's 250,000 times that of an ordinary person. How is that possible? This person, after all, was the scientist in charge of the brain control project and knew quite a lot about the human brain. He used a slew of scientific terms, his tone full of curiosity and envy for Liu Yao's capabilities. But the next second, his soul was firmly clutched by the mind force that Liu Yao released. He hurriedly said, "Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm Ole Porn, the second person in charge of the brain control project. As you can see, I have a very high level of expertise, personally completed the first brain transfer surgery on Blue Star, which is why I now have this young body." Liu Yao said with interest, "Brain transfer surgery? You transplanted your own brain into your adopted son Reynolds' body, taking over his body? A scientific version of body possession, interesting." Ole Porn replied proudly, "Exactly. But I prefer to call this fusion. I can transplant my own brain into anyone's body, thus grasping the secret to eternal life. I have stepped beyond the bounds of mortals and am a true deity. My adopted son is just a brute with raw strength, merging with me, being united with a god, is a supreme honor." Upon hearing the phrase "united with a god," Liu Yao's heart stirred. He had heard this phrase numerous times before. Hong Rongkan, those tentacled monsters, and those several strange secret manuals, had all mentioned it. At this moment, Ole Porn continued to exclaim. "Mr. Liu Yao, I sincerely invite you to join us. Just think, with my knowledge combined with your power, we could rule Blue Star forever." Liu Yao only felt like laughing. This person didn't even realize what a mess his soul was in. The brain is not as simple as he imagined. Small talk over, Liu Yao got right to the point, forcibly hypnotizing him with mind force and demanding, "Tell me everything about the star key." Ole Porn himself didn't know what was happening but instinctively blurted out everything he knew. It must be a piece of technology from a higher civilization. The earliest records trace back to the 17th century. Ever since it arrived on Blue Star, it has been transmitting some kind of signal to the outer world. We got it from the Nazis at the end of World War II, but after decades of research, we still couldn't decipher its secrets. Until one day, when its energy was exhausted and it stopped working, the related research also came to an end. But just a few hours before the energy ran out, I was conducting an experiment for the brain control project and accidentally inhaled too much of a hallucinogenic gas. During those few short minutes, I had a revelation. Everything converges into one, united with the God. My expertise in the field of the brain deepened, and I even performed brain transfer surgery 20 years ago. This surgery is very simple, it only requires 2 rubber tubes. Ole's voice became fainter and fainter, then suddenly regained clarity and he cried out in panic. "What have you done? You dare to dominate my will? You son of a whore!" Liu Yao sighed, "You only heard these few sentences? Not much information. But you've already cracked its secret, haven't you?" Ole shouted excitedly. "Your superhuman strength comes from it, right? Tell me what exactly is this secret?" Useless now, Liu Yao didn't want to waste any more time. "Take your doubts to hell with you." The power of mind force was too precious, so Liu Yao didn't use the spirit refinement methods to kill the man. Instead, after his soul returned, he brought out the newly acquired Blade of Freedom. At this point, the object was merely 3 feet and 2 inches long, indistinguishable from an ordinary flying sword. Experience the sinister force feedback of your country in detail. Having said that, he manipulated the malicious magical treasure to gently poke the other party, leaving a toothpick-sized wound. Suddenly, Ole let out a piercing scream. His body was covered in colorful oily gleam, then he collapsed and disintegrated, dissolving into the air. It truly is a very malevolent magical treasure. After a brief test of this ghastly item, Liu Yao opened the door and returned to the other world. But he couldn't stop thinking, the arrival of the star key on Blue Star seemed to be without good intentions. Chapter 412, he even laughed. Liu Yao returned and was immediately surrounded by a flock of girls, his nostrils instantly filled with the delicate fragrance of women. "Liu Yao, look, I've achieved a 40-tooth constitution. Liao Qi showed off her mouth full of pearly white teeth like a cute display to the one in her heart. Liu Yao probed with his mind force and performed inner vision, discovering that the girl had indeed reached the complete 40-tooth constitution. He immediately praised her, saying, "Well done. Your marrow is as frost, your blood like mercury. You've achieved great perfection in blood exchange and can now try to break through to the innate realm." Liao Qi, with a beaming smile, was extremely happy and cast a smug glance at her older sister. Liao Ye's face showed a trace of awkwardness, and Li Pei pursed her lips, too embarrassed to show her still forming teeth. The two of them were a step away from achieving a complete 40-tooth constitution, which meant they had been surpassed by their younger sister in cultivation. Liao Ye gave her sister a knock on the head and said disdainfully, "What's there to be proud of? You've just been piggybacking on Liu Yao's help with your cultivation." Liao Qi took it in stride, unbothered. In her eyes, there was nothing wrong with her beloved helping her with her cultivation. At that moment, Liu Yao suddenly felt a burning gaze upon him. He turned his head and saw it was Yu Yanmei. Yu Yanmei was staring intently at the long chuan sword on Liu Yao's back, seemingly anxious. No wonder she was so eager. A martial artist's weapon needs to be nurtured daily with true qi and constantly refined. Yu Yanmei had the long chuan sword for nearly 2 years, and over time it had become as dear to her as her own game account. This time, having lent it to Liu Yao to help level it up, she was eager to see the results. Liu Yao quickly took off the long chuan sword and handed it over, to the Grand Master. "I am glad to fulfill the task. Please, take a look." Yu Yanmei accepted the sword and couldn't wait to draw it from its sheath. The blade gleamed like autumn waters, chilling to the gaze as if pointed directly at the eyes. Even the air around the weapon seemed to blur slightly. Yu Yanmei exclaimed in surprise, "A magic artifact." A magic artifact wasn't something easily obtained. It had to be crafted by a spirit refinement expert or could come into being after being worshipped in temples for hundreds of years. The other girls crowded around, clicking their tongues in wonder. Liao Qi exclaimed, "This long chuan sword is so beautiful. It looks like it's wrapped in a layer of crystal." Yu Yanmei, her face expressionless but eyes sparkling, pulled out a strand of hair and tossed it at the blade. With an almost inaudible sound, the hair was cut upon contact. This was clearly a weapon sharp enough to slice through hair. Furthermore, the hair of an innate martial artist was as tough as steel wire, and the long chuan sword, now a magic artifact, was far from ordinary. Yu Yanmei's eyes gleamed brightly, and her cheeks flushed with obvious satisfaction. She cherished the blade, growing fonder as she looked at it, and then lifted her head to give Liu Yao a radiant smile. "Thank you, you've been thoughtful." Her smile was like the blossoming of myriad flowers, stunningly beautiful. Liu Yao was so entranced that he was momentarily lost for words before he finally said, "No need for politeness. I'm grateful you've been watching over the home while I was away." Li Pei added cheerfully, "That's right, Master, don't be shy, we're all family here." She felt proud that her man was so generous. Plus, it was rare to see the Master so happy, even smiling. A sight she had scarcely seen since childhood. At that moment, 3 spiritual sparrowhawks landed to greet their master, nuzzling affectionately against his neck. Liu Yao lovingly rubbed the heads of his 3 babies, feeling content. Together with Su Arya standing behind him, his family was growing more and more. However, one was still missing. At this very moment, a figure clad in a purple court dress was hiding in the distance, secretly observing. It was Fran. They really gave the wrong title. This holy knight is not holy at all, with so many women in his home. Fran complained to herself for a while and then looked towards the long chuan sword. Interesting, in just 2 days, ordinary iron has turned into a divine weapon. This holy knight has many secrets, she thought. Fran left her hiding place, advancing with stable and elegant strides. As a divine soul, she could have merely floated along, but she chose this more imposing method of movement instead. But halfway through, she suddenly stumbled, only to see in the space where the holy knight was, countless lights and shadows converging, and a 10-meter tall giant with 3 heads and 6 arms appeared. Fran was suddenly startled. A hard reflection has materialized. It's only been a few days, and there's already a divine weapon and breakthroughs. Where on earth did he go to get so many good things? A hint of uncontrollable shock showed on her porcelain-like delicate face. At this moment, the 3 faces of the heart reflection turned toward her and laughed. "Fran, miss, what do you think? Are you satisfied with my heart reflection? Fran didn't walk any further and whoosh, she soared over and hovered midair. She surveyed Liu Yao up and down with her shining turquoise eyes, and nodded unhurriedly. It's passable, not some evil monster. I permit you to continue bearing the title of Holy Knight. But don't get too pleased with yourself. Judging by its size, your heart reflection is only 10 meters tall, which is just barely adequate. Only those over 15 meters can be considered top-tier powerhouses. At her words, the others nearby laughed. Fran spoke with a hint of confusion, what's so funny? Only a mental unity of 15 meters can be regarded as the pinnacle for spirit cultivators. Liu Yao's current 10-meter heart reflection was at most ordinary golden body realm level. But Fran didn't know that Liu Yao had once manifested a 100-meter heart reflection in a 1v3 divine manifestation. Liu Yao smiled, thank you for your kind words, Miss Fran. I will continue to cultivate diligently. He then said to a few others who hadn't achieved it. I've brought some things to help you break through the innate realm quickly, come and take a look. Grandmaster you should try as well. The girls were excited, and even Yu Yanmei was quite expectant. Fran, lacking a physical body, was also curious about the Shun dynasty's cultivation practices. The group arrived at a quiet room, and Liu Yao produced a metal kin the size of a thermos. This kin, acquired from the Star Alliance National Army Biological Laboratory, stored radioactive materials, and each kin had a price tag of $50 million. The kin required a turn to the left and right to open, and within was a white powder. Plutonium-239. With an extremely high purity, it was sufficient for use as a fission agent in nuclear weapons. If there were a Geiger counter present, it surely would have screamed an ear-piercing alarm. But Liu Yao was not worried about radioactive contamination since there were 5 martial artists gathering in the room. He had used radiation for refinement many times before, with martial artists absorbing the radiation and the radioactive materials slowly being depleted, leaving no chance of leakage. Now, Yu Yanmei, Li Pei, and sisters Liaoya and Liao Qi all showed expressions of refreshing pleasure on their faces. What is this thing? I feel like my body has come to life. My heavens! The speed of my blood and inner breath circulation has surged tenfold. With this aid, I will ascend to the innate realm within 5 days. After regulating her breath for a while, Yu Yanmei was equally amazed. Impressive! Bodily functions have surged dramatically, and my cultivation speed has increased more than tenfold. However, aside from Liu Yao, we cannot use this often, or it will result in unstable foundations. Liu Yao smiled and said, each of you take one kin then. But be careful not to get close to ordinary people, this stuff is toxic to them. The beauties were not too surprised, the supplements for high-level martial artists were always so. Yu Yanmei held a metal kin, feeling slightly embarrassed in her heart. She had taken quite a few advantages from him today, and it didn't feel right to take more. But such a divine item, unobtainable even with money and with such significant effects, made it really hard for her to refuse. Meanwhile, Fran stood by with wide eyes, not feeling anything and consequently, feeling a touch of sorrow at the sight which made her long even more for a real body. Chapter 413, Taoer and others have a chat. With the divine item brought by Liu Yao, coupled with Yu Yanmei's care, it was a nailed-on certainty that the 3 younger sisters would advance to the innate realm. They were insanely excited, after all, this was the realm of a Grand Master. Despite being almost a sure thing, they couldn't afford to be careless. Yu Yanmei strictly ordered Liao Qi, who had been leaping through levels, to break through on her own to ensure a stable foundation. So, she took her to start closed-door cultivation that very day, and Liaoya went as well. Li Pei, however, did not go with them. She deliberately started her seclusion a day later, wanting to have Liu Yao all to herself for once, to vent the excitement that was about to explode in her heart. The girl, being of imperial descent, was somewhat vain, so when Liu Yao advanced, she was beside herself with excitement. After all, he was now a divine manifestation true monarch, one of the top powerhouses that could be counted on the entire planet. At this very moment, Li Pei could no longer wait for the night to come and pounced on Liu Yao with impatience, mounting her man with eyes sparkling with excitement. It's really like a dream. I actually married a divine manifestation true monarch. I've become the wife of a true monarch. Liu Yao, supporting the girl's waist, laughed and said, I'm just getting started. From now on, I will continue to advance to higher realms, so you need to be mentally prepared. Upon hearing this, Li Pei's eyes, bright as gems, were filled with adoration, as if they were about to drip with water. As a result, she went all out to serve him, while all Liu Yao needed to do was lie back and enjoy. The fair and tender beauty was within reach, the gentle warmth of jade-like skin was but a head raise away, and the tear mole at the corner of her eye, coupled with her indulgent expression, was especially enchanting, offering a unique charm when looking up at a beauty. Time slipped into the latter half of the night without notice. Li Pei, insatiable, seemed to have no intention of sleeping, determined not to stop until she was overstuffed after being well fed. But there are limits to what a person can endure, and eventually, she ended up trembling and collapsed on her husband's shoulder, motionless, her hazy gaze returning to clarity. Liu Yao, stroking the girl's smooth back, laughed and said, "You're really wild enough." Li Pei took a deep breath and said, "I'm exceptionally happy today, I've been out of line. And lately, I've been particularly hungry, my mind all foggy. Now, at last, I feel better." Being strong in body, martial artists also have particularly intense desires. Liu Yao nodded and said, "I sometimes feel that way too. It's the instinct of life's procreation." Li Pei cuddled into her man's embrace, squinting her eyes slyly as she said, "My master is at the flesh realm, so it stands to reason that her desires would be even stronger. It's hard to imagine how she's endured these many years, it must have been tough." Sect Master Yu is cool and aloof, not as unbearable as you describe. What's wrong with being cool and aloof? She's a normal woman too. Let me tell you, she was the #1 beauty in the martial world of the previous generation, with suitors as plentiful as fish crossing a river. When she was 17, she was even set to discuss marriage with a notable disciple of the Kunlun sect. Liu Yao, eager for such gossip, promptly asked, "Then what happened?" Li Pei, indignantly said, "Engagement gifts were already exchanged, then unexpectedly, that Kunlun disciple fell for the previous holy maiden of the joyful sect, who is now the sect master. That faithless man broke off the engagement publicly, causing my master great embarrassment." Liu Yao was astounded. "Ah! There was such a thing?" "Yes, but fortunately, my master had a firm resolve. She was stimulated by this incident and advanced to the innate realm at the age of 18. Li Pei, finally finding someone she could absolutely trust to gossip with about her own master, began to speak without restraint. "However, since then she hasn't been close to any man, and remains unblemished to this day, which is quite sigh-worthy." The story of Yu Yanmei's past was infuriating, but inside, Liu Yao felt an inexplicable sense of relief. There was still a while before dawn, and seizing the moment, Li Pei updated Liu Yao on the current situation. "My lord, the southern prefecture governments have already effectively become independent. Initially, Zhang Wenda, Zheng Bohan, and Yuan Kaisheng, the three great grandmasters, intended to emulate Einheit and establish a constitutional monarchy. But now, holding an advantageous position, they want to switch to a presidential system. However, they are at loggerheads over the candidate for president, with the dispute at an impasse." Liu Yao asked, "After all, the Prime Minister doesn't have the same level of authority as the President, so what about the Empress Dowager?" "The Empress Dowager has placed Emperor Yong'an under house arrest in Chang'an, but since then she has not made any statements to the outside world, which is very strange." Li Pei frowned and said, "Everyone outside has been speculating that the Empress Dowager is busy with her gardens, surely intending to concoct some scheme for eternal life." Liu Yao nodded and replied, "We could ask Sect Master Zhang Yunchu of Wudang about this. He was invited by the imperial court to set up formations in the summer palace, so he should know something." Suddenly, Li Pei became nervous. "My lord, can we please not get involved in the Empress Dowager's affairs? It's too dangerous. As long as she doesn't harm others, let's just leave her be." More than 20 years of life experience had left too many shadows, and this young woman had an innate fear of the Empress Dowager. Liu Yao wrapped his arms around her, his voice soft and comforting, "Relax, your lord is now a divine manifestation true monarch normally, I hardly take note of a few golden bodies." Li Pei curled up in her lord's arms, feeling very secure, and whispered, "Tomorrow, I will spread the news of your advancement in the Jin realm far and wide to suppress any impropriety. Jingjin has not been very peaceful lately, either." "Oh? What kind of unrest?" "Previously, the coalition forces of the great powers surrounded the imperial city and ravaged cities around Jingjin, creating many ownerless specialty shops. Now that the allied forces have been repelled, many people have been drawn to fight over these places. Among them are not only the nobles who fled earlier but also strong figures from other regions. This bunch is not good, forcing sales, looting and even secretly engaging in human trafficking. Liu Yao rubbed the young woman's head and said calmly, "Leave everything to me, you all focus on your cultivation and strive to break through as soon as possible." The next day, Li Pei obediently began her closed-door cultivation. Without disturbing the other young women, Liu Yao leisurely went to the pavilion in the mountains to write some invitation letters. Things were different now. As a newly advanced divine manifestation true monarch, there was no need for him to keep a low profile any longer. And much like a whale in a reservoir, he could not if he wanted to. It was inevitable that he would raise his voice. Sua Arya stood diligently by his side. The letter read: I, Liu Yao, have now advanced to spirit refinement and attained divine manifestation. Observing the chaos in the Jingjin area, I hereby invite you to a gathering tomorrow at noon. Be sure to arrive on time. The wording was somewhat arrogant. Although named an invitation letter, it was in fact an order. But Sua Arya didn't see anything wrong with that. Their uncle, now a divine manifestation true monarch, was honoring them with an invitation. How many people longed for such an opportunity and did not receive it? According to the common understanding in the other world, Liu Yao's cultivation at the innate level plus divine manifestation was equivalent to the battle power of a golden body grandmaster. Moreover, his status was even slightly higher, since spirit refinement experts were vital producers, their role not limited to combat alone. Liu Yao handed the letter to the young girl, "Deliver these to all the government offices, and to the noble sects active around Jingjin. Tell them to send someone over, for I have something to say." "As you command, disciple," Sua Arya received the letter solemnly. "Right, take this for your self-defense." Liu Yao beckoned with a gesture, and Fran, controlling the lake sword, flew over reluctantly. With this spirit refinement expert, equivalent to an out-of-body practitioner, and the divine lake sword for a bodyguard, she was more than capable. Seeing Fran's reluctance, Liu Yao channeled a whiff of innate true qi to feed it, while smiling, "Don't always stay at home eating and drinking for free, it's beneficial to go outside and get some exercise for your physical and mental health." Sua Arya sweetly chimed in, "Thank you for your troubles, Sister Fran." The two young girls were about the same age and had gotten along well during the days when Liu Yao was away. Fran gave Liu Yao a glare and settled herself on Sua Arya's back. "Uncle, your disciple is leaving now." The diligent young girl performed a respectful salute and farewell, then with a boom of rapid movement, she left at high speed. A 13-year-old who had cleansed her marrow was undoubtedly an extraordinary genius. With Liu Yao's nurturing, she truly had boundless potential. Chapter 414, Going to be Bad? A compound with red walls and green tiles was heavily guarded. Soldiers stood watch with guns, amidst trees that cast a desolate shadow. This was the headquarters of the Imperial Guards, a symbol of military might and power. The Imperial Guards were formerly the army that accompanied General Zhou on his expedition to the western frontier and had remained unbroken in defense of the imperial city, their ranks still orderly. Sua Arya was the first to arrive at this place. Recognizing her from afar, the corporal in charge at the gate hurried forward, bowed, and said, "Miss Su has arrived. How may I be of service?" Sua Arya returned the salute with a cupped fist and calmly said, "I have a letter of invitation for General Dong from my martial uncle." Upon hearing this, the corporal quickly said, "Please come in. I will immediately announce your arrival." After giving the order to open the gate, he respectfully ushered Sua Arya inside. Halfway there, Dong Fuxiang, who had received the news, had already come to meet them, showing a hint of excitement as he said, "Miss Su, has young Master Liu made a breakthrough?" Sua Arya handed over the letter and nodded, "My martial uncle has reached the spirit refining manifest holiness in the Jin realm. He requests that the general come to meet him tomorrow." Dong Fuxiang took the letter, and his face immediately lit up with joy. "Congratulations to Lord Liu for achieving spirit refining manifest holiness. I will surely be there as promised. This is a great matter indeed. With Lord Liu here, he will surely suppress the petty and the trivial." Several officers nearby spoke softly, "That settles it. Those damned thugs have been getting more and more out of hand with the backing of powerful families and sects. It's about time someone put them in their place." "Exactly. Especially the scum of the martial world, like the Black Dragon Gang and Five Tigers Gate, trading a few caddies of old rice for someone's precious daughters. And that elder from the joyful sect who excels in the technique of observing beauty, named Ji Gui, who specializes in making indecent propositions to women in the streets, spit on him. Be quiet. That man selects concubines for Grandmaster Yuan. Being the stalwarts of General Zhou and having old ties with Liu Yao, the imperial guards were naturally overjoyed at this time. Having delivered the letter, Su Area was ready to take her leave. Dong Fuxiang said, Miss Su, many scattered officials have not returned, and you are not familiar with the avenues of the government offices. It would be quite troublesome. Allow me to deliver the invitations for you, I'll make sure no one is missed. The Emperor and Empress had fled to Chang'an, leaving many government offices in a paralyzed state. After a moment's thought, Su Area said, then I'll have to trouble the general. Miss Su, you are too polite. It's the least I could do. Throughout, Dong Fuxiang showed no sign of underestimating Su Area because of her young age, treating her courteously throughout and even personally escorting her out of the gate when she left. Beyond her talent as a prodigy who underwent marrow cleansing at the age of 13, she now represented Liu Yao, a divine manifestation grandmaster. Martial artists at the marrow cleansing stage could travel close to 100 km per hour and were unimpeded by terrain. It took Su Area just 1 hour to deliver the invitations to various places within the city. The reactions of the heads of prestigious families and martial sects stationed in Jingjian varied greatly upon seeing the invitation, with most displaying displeased expressions. The reputation of Lord Liu was well known, he was one of the few righteous individuals. Moreover, the wording of the invitation was straightforward, clearly expressing dissatisfaction with their behavior. This meeting was bound to be challenging. However, some faces showed delight. Finally, they had the chance to closely observe this newly risen divine manifestation powerhouse. This individual's rise had been meteoric, transforming from a frail sickly figure to a top-tier fighter in just a few years, which surely involved profound secrets. Before, there had been no opportunity to interact or communicate with him. This occasion was a rare and excellent chance to obtain detailed information. With varying thoughts and intentions, everyone began preparing to meet Liu Yao with different expectations in mind. Su Area's work was not yet done, there were still 2 sects stationed around Langfang to contact. This place, near Jinmen, which had already been plagued by the passing coalition forces of the great powers, was now a haven for all sorts of minor factions and underworld figures. At this moment, in a burnt-down village, 3 heroes were rummaging around. The people of Shunchao liked to bury their valuables in jars underground, which were difficult to find without specialized skills. Therefore, many people from the Jianghe flocked to the ruins of Jinmen to pick up the pieces. Damn! After all the trouble of digging up a jar, it's nothing but copper coins. Zhu, the eldest brother, was covered in mud and soot only to end up with a wasted effort, as the copper coins of Shunchao were now practically worthless, about as valuable as stones. The second brother, equally filthy, was already losing his cool and grumbled. Elder brother, it would have been better to stay home and farm opium. We, the 3 heroes of Beihe Gully, are about to turn into 3 rats. It was their 7th day, and wherever the coalition forces had passed through, they had looted and burned everything down, making the prospect of scavenging frustratingly unprofitable. The third brother also said, yeah, elder brother, we can't rob shops or fields, but we could at least collect some girls from the countryside and sell them to shipowners. Shut up! Zhu, the eldest brother, slapped his brother who had spoken, snapping angrily, selling people to demon beasts as blood food. That's an evil deed that offends the heavens and damages our moral standing. We can't do that. Unconvinced after being slapped, the third brother retorted, these girls' own parents want to sell them, we're just making a bit of money for running the errands. Zhu, the eldest brother, became furious and rolled up his sleeves to continue the beating, but was quickly held back by the second brother. While the 3 heroes of Beihe Gully were squabbling, the sound of a car engine came from afar. Sure enough, 4 old-fashioned green trucks drove by. In reality, these contraptions looked more like tractors, only taller. In the truck beds, many young boys and girls sat with fear etched on their faces. The third brother excitedly said, the flag on the hood is Black Dragons, it's the Black Dragon Gang's convoy. The second brother understood, that's for trafficking people overseas, what's it called? Oh right. Going abroad to work. Zhu, the eldest brother, watched the convoy, his fists clenched and his face filled with rage. He didn't consider himself a good person, but even he wouldn't commit such heinous acts. Yet at that moment, one of the guards sitting in the driver's cabin sensed his hostility and suddenly looked over. Zhu, the eldest brother, shuddered as if electrocuted, quickly lowered his head daring not to look again, and warned his brothers. Eyes like lightning, they're at the blood exchange realm. Damn it! There's so much profit in this. Both trucks and blood exchange warriors. I've heard the foreigners offer a high price, 1 tael of silver for each boy or girl. If they're top quality, they could even be traded for gold. The foreigners are fighting vicious wars, and demon beasts rely on human blood to recover their strength. As the three murmured among themselves, Zhu, the eldest brother, suddenly panicked as he saw a little girl approaching from a distance. Damn! Where did this little girl come from? How come she ran into the Black Dragon Gang's convoy? Before he could decide what to do, it was too late. The 4 trucks braked abruptly, and several martial artists leaped down, their faces filled with great surprise. Zhu, the eldest brother, exclaimed in shock, crap! Each truck has a blood exchange warrior escort. I thought there was only one. The second brother looked on with pity, the little girl is quite a beauty, now she's in trouble. The 3 heroes of Behi Gully were only at the bone-tempering realm and didn't dare move a muscle at this moment. It was Suaria who was approaching, looking around at the devastation and feeling emotional. Once out of the Imperial City, the outside world is completely different. Fortunately, I have my uncle to protect me. Suddenly, a convoy came to a sudden stop in the distance, and 4 opulently dressed brutes surrounded her. Chapter 415, Hit the Jackpot. The Black Dragon Gang was established less than 3 months ago. It was a faction temporarily formed by bandits, mountain bandit leaders, and other underworld figures specifically to profit from despair, as a certain lord put it. These people originally thought that the coalition forces of the great powers would definitely breach the capital, and they could loot a fortune amidst the chaos. But they did not expect that the foreigners would collapse midway into their venture, so the Black Dragon Gang had to resort to the small business of human trafficking. Thanks to the war, the profits from this line of work turned out to be incredibly high. Demons that had lived for hundreds of years were particularly fond of the fresh blood of young boys, girls, and virgins, willing to pay a steep price for it. At this moment, the leader of the convoy, Duan Xiang, looked back at the trembling merchandise filled to the brim and revealed a smile of bountiful joy on his face. A subordinate with a missing piece of his upper lip flattered, "Boss, another 100 taels of silver in the coffers this time, working under you is truly exhilarating." The others chorused in agreement, that's right, only our boss would have such connections. Boss is about to be knighted, isn't he? Need you even ask, it's just a matter of time. A crowd of people offered insane flattery, and Duan Xiang's face showed a modest smile. It's a pity they are all ordinary goods, had we acquired some top quality items, we could have traded them for gold with the foreigners. At the mention of gold, the group sucked in a breath of cold air. The subordinate with the missing lip said quickly, top quality goods depend on luck, I'm already content with this much profit, brother Scar. The crowd universally agreed, indicating they had already made quite a bit, and for a moment, the sound of bootlicking drowned out even the noise of the truck's engine. In principle, everyone was at the blood exchange realm, with no need for deliberate flattery. But who could blame them when Duan Xiang had such a good father, whose superb technique of observing beauty had presented numerous beauties to Grandmaster Yuan, gaining his favor in a high-ranking position. Duan Xiang's father was none other than the elder of Joyful Sect, Duan Zhigui. At the moment, while Duan Xiang was enjoying everyone's funning, in his heart, there was some regret that he hadn't managed to find that top-quality good. A peerless beauty. With his family's profound knowledge in the technique of observing beauty, Duan Xiang had hoped to find an exceptional beauty as an opportunity to advance his status. Even if he didn't sell her to the foreigners, presenting her to Grandmaster Yuan would bring countless benefits. Unfortunately, such matters relied on fate, one couldn't simply obtain them by wishing. Just then, his eyes suddenly widened. There appeared a swaying, beautiful shadow at the end of the road. Her skin was translucent, whiter than snow, and her delicate, pretty melon seed face was utterly endearing. At the tender age of adolescence, brimming with youthful vitality, she was like a newly bloomed spring flower, indescribably lovely. SSS Duan Xiang inhaled sharply, this is indeed a top-quality item. Today must be the day I strike it rich. The others also saw Sui Arya and quickly stopped the vehicle and surrounded her. Sui Arya, seeing this group of ill-intentioned people, called out with a frosty face, what do you want to do? Hearing her bell-like, tender and clear voice, Duan Xiang's smile widened, delighted to have unexpectedly stumbled upon such luck. Little sister, how about your brother takes you to a nice place? Sui Arya spat out, scoundrel. Duanxiang wore a confident and composed smile, his side had 4 at the blood exchange and another 10 at the bone tempering and organ refining level. This young girl had no chance of escaping, but he had to be gentle. She must not be harmed. Just then, a fierce shout suddenly rang out, "Stop, stop, stop!" The person seemed somewhat timid at first, stammering, but by the time he yelled out, he was filled with boldness and fearlessness. Turning their heads, they saw a burly man standing 1.9 meters tall, the boss of Beihai Gully's trio. Zhu Bineng. His roar startled his own 2 brothers the most. Beihai Gully's trio only had the cultivation of bone tempering, and even the flunkies on the opposing side had achieved organ refining. Speaking out at this moment was akin to courting death. His second and third brothers hurriedly hopped over to cover their boss's mouth, at the same time turning with ingratiating smiles, "Sorry, sorry, my big brother's gone out of his mind. Carry on, we didn't see anything." Duanxiang's group immediately scoffed in derision, their faces full of mockery. Zhu Binan broke free from the restraint of his 2 brothers and took a deep breath before shouting. "It's broad daylight, the world is clear and bright, and yet you dare to abduct a young girl in the street to feed to a demon? Are you even human?" After letting out those words, any trace of cowardice in Zhu Binan vanished without a trace, and he held a defiant gaze even when being stared down by a group of practitioners far superior in cultivation. Duanxiang suddenly burst into laughter, "Ha, another foolhardy hero who knows not the bounds of life and death. We've killed no less than 1,000 like you, yet there seems no end to it. It's truly sickening." As he spoke, Duanxiang's face turned cold, and with an equally icy voice, he commanded, "Old Scar, do them in." "Sure thing, watch and learn." The man with a piece of his lip missing sneered and slowly approached the 3 heroes of Beihai Gully. "Ha, having fallen into my hands, you're out of luck. I will remove your organs and feed them to you." Upon hearing this, the second and the third brothers burst into tears on the spot, frightfully clinging to each other and screaming madly at their elder brother. "Zhu Binan! You cursed madman! After burning down our family's opium fields, now you bring us this misfortune. Fuck your ancestor!" Zhu Binan, also known as Zhu Binan, laughed bitterly, "Your ancestor is our own father. I'm sorry, I just couldn't help it. In my next life, I'll repay you, even if I have to become an ox or a horse." "Will you?" the 2 younger brothers just cried. Bone tempering compared to blood exchange was as vast a gap as that between humans and ants. At that moment, Duanxiang's group had surrounded Sua area, preparing to capture her alive while Old Scar neared with a hideous smile. Zhu Binan shouted, "The Zhu family was noble lineage of the former dynasty. We may face our deaths today, but we must not stand by and do nothing. For over 20 years we've lived in disgrace, but today, show me your backbone." "We've only lived a little over 10 years, the second and third brothers sobbed, standing shoulder to shoulder, showing a bit of courage in the face of life and death. And Zhu Binan felt an unprecedented clarity of thought, facing insurmountable enemies, having done all he could, and brought no shame to his ancestors. At this moment, this upright man's will was unyielding, fearless of life and death. Seeing his true self clearly, his spirit would never retreat. This is called steadfastness. I'll be damned, I've actually made a breakthrough at the brink of death. Zhu Binan didn't quite know what to make of this. He could find the pot of silver hidden beneath the rubble. He was naturally talented in spirit refinement and made a breakthrough in the nick of time. But steadfast bone tempering was still no match for blood exchange, and death seemed inevitable. Oh well, it's not in my fate after all. Just as the 3 heroes of Beihai Gully closed their eyes to await death, and the myriad enemies cackled menacingly, closing in, a sudden explosion echoed through the air, followed by a wave of booming sound blasts. Zhu Binan's newly broken through spirit refinement realm proved useful as time around him seemingly slowed to a crawl. Even so, he could only see something flash by, and the malicious smile on Old Scar's face froze. The next second, his expression turned to one of sheer horror, and his head rolled off his shoulders, tumbling down to the feet of the 3 brothers, causing them to jump back in fright. Afterward, a streak of silver darted through the fray, and the chilling sound of flesh and bone being severed echoed continuously. This silver flash moved so fast that the enemies didn't even have time to scream before their heads fell one by one. When the dust finally settled, the 3 heroes of Beihai Gully saw that the once arrogant Duanxiang was now missing an arm, kneeling on the ground and repeatedly kowtowing to the young girl, the thumping loud and clear. "Lady hero, spare my life, my noble lady, I was blind and did not see Mount Tai. My father is an elder of joyful sect. Duan Zhigui, a favored individual before Grandmaster Yuan. If you kill me, it will surely have repercussions. Sua Arya paid him no mind, addressing Fran instead. Sister Fran, why did you wait till the last second to act? Were you trying to scare me? I didn't want to dirty myself with disgusting blood. Fran didn't reveal herself, just communicated telepathically. What are you afraid of? Within 100 miles not a thing can escape your master uncle's notice. Her voice had barely faded when Liu Yao's voice emerged from the lake sword. Who were you all fighting with? Sua Arya quickly replied, Master Uncle, this man harbored ill intentions towards your disciple, but he claims to be under Grandmaster Yuan. The girl didn't want to cause any trouble for Liu Yao. Duan Xiang, witnessing the scene, grew even more terrified. It was clear this was a favored child of heaven under the care of a master, even granted a flying sword for protection. He must have had lard in his brain to dare launch an attack. He cried out desperately, spare me. I swear I will reform and lead a righteous life from now on. But before he could finish speaking, the lake sword abruptly turned his head into a cloud of flesh, leaving behind a headless corpse that sprayed blood high into the air before collapsing. Liu Yao then said, such trash, is there any point in keeping him alive until New Year's? Fran seized control of the lake sword back, screaming, Liu Yao, you bastard! You've dirted me. I'll grant you some blessings when you return. Ah? Really? It's a promise then. From a distance, the three heroes of Beihe Gully were completely dumbfounded by the sudden and dramatic turnaround. Chapter 416, Catalyzing. The date set by Liu Yao happened to be the Kixi festival. Arya was busy settling the rescued boys and girls that morning and only rushed back in time, followed by the three heroes of Beihe Gully. It was already past 10, and the guests had arrived early. In the other world, people also valued early rather than late, especially when summoned by a divine manifestation true master. To show regard and politeness, everyone had arrived quite early. The crowd was clearly divided into two sides, one of court officials and the other of Jianghe folks. At that moment, everyone was greeting Sua Arya with respectful salutations. The young girl returned their greetings with composed fist and palm salutes. With her graceful appearance and modest demeanor, she exuded the air of a distinguished family's disciple. The crowd silently praised her. In looks, martial skill, and determination, she excelled in every aspect. This young girl's future was boundless. Meanwhile, the three heroes of Beihe Gully were somewhat timid amidst the distinguished assembly. Among them were second-rank officials of the imperial court and senior members such as the heads of external affairs and elders from eminent sects, individuals whose stature could shake the ground with a stomp. The others were also puzzled, observing the three bone-tempering nobodies and wondering what they were doing here. Arya said to the eldest brother Zhu, you, come with me to see Uncle Master. Zhu Beneng obediently followed behind the young girl amidst the curious gazes of the onlookers, heading toward the mountain's summit. Upon reaching the mountain top, Zhu Beneng saw a young man with a calm expression and a demeanor gentle as jade, massaging three majestic spirit sparrowhawks. Each sparrowhawk was 4 meters long and had a wingspan of nearly 8 meters, with feathers, claws, and beaks gleaming with a metallic chill, clearly blood exchange realm spirit birds. At that time, they lay submissively on the ground, occasionally rubbing their heads affectionately against their master. Zhu Beneng quickly knelt and kowtowed. Zhu Beneng from Beihe Gully, pays respects to Lord Liu. Liu Yao casually waved his hand, and Zhu Beneng felt a powerful force lifting him up. No need for excessive formalities. I was merely curious to see your breakthrough in the midst of battle. Would you mind if I use inner vision on you? Not at all, not at all. Please feel free to look, Zhu replied. Zhu Beneng was excited, knowing that speaking with a divine manifestation true master was a once-in-a-lifetime boast. Immediately after, he felt an electric current spread throughout his body, lasting only a few seconds. Liu Yao nodded with a smile. To face death and see one's true self without retreat is a perilous breakthrough to firmness in the spirit-refining stage. Zhu Beneng humbly said, I dare not claim so, my lord. I didn't see through anything, I was actually very afraid of death. To see through life and death is not to be unafraid of dying. To face certain death with composure is to have seen through it. Liu Yao smiled lightly. In the face of danger, you showed no fear of violence and were ready to lay down your life. Such character is truly rare. Since we've met, it must be fate. Let me give you a transformative gift. With that, he tapped on Zhu Beneng's Tanzong A cup ointment, infusing innate true qi. Zhu Beneng instantly felt searingly hot molten iron pouring into his body, almost screaming in agony. However, he knew this was an opportunity, and he forcefully endured with his willpower. This torrent of heat circulated throughout his body, first refining his organs. Zhu Beneng heard a thunderous rumble within him as if an engine had started, followed by a muffled hum from his nostrils. He had achieved organ refining. But that wasn't all. Liu Yao, seeing every detail of the man's body clearly, could manipulate it at will. Driven by the innate true qi, blood surged through his body, the inner breath cleansing deep within his bones. When Zhu Beneng regained his senses, he found that the entire world had changed. A powerful force surged and roared within him. He had become a bone-tempering martial artist. And all this had taken just a quarter of an hour. He was dazed and shocked, taking a long while to recover before he hastily performed the grand salutation of 3 kneelings and 9 bows. "Thank you for your enlightenment, true master. Thank you for your enlightenment," Liu Yao declared loudly, although this action was akin to forcing the plant to grow by pulling it upwards. "Your spirit refinement firmness should prevent any harm. Now, adapt well and make the sudden surge of power truly your own." "Many thanks, Lord Liu. Many thanks, Lord Liu." Zhu Beneng's head buzzed, feeling as if everything was a dream, as he turned into a repeating machine. Liu Yao said to Arya, "Take him down, please, and invite the guests up." On their way down the mountain, Arya solemnly said to Zhu Beneng, "You have received the benevolence of your martial uncle, you must conduct yourself uprightly hereafter. Should you commit any treacherous deeds, I will personally clean the sect on behalf of my martial uncle." "Miss Su's reminder is heeded, I am well aware." Zhu Beneng glanced back, his heart swelling with profound respect and gratitude. "With divine guidance, a mortal ascends to heaven. I must cultivate diligently, uphold justice and righteousness, and never tarnish the reputation of Lord Liu." By this time, they had already reached the foot of the mountain. The guests had long been eagerly awaiting, and they promptly surged forward to watch. Upon watching, they all inhaled a sharp breath of air. Eyes brimming with divine essence, muscles and bones infused with luster flowing through. What's going on? Wasn't this man just a bone-tempering realm nobody? How did he suddenly reach the spirit refinement stage? An elderly man clad in a luxurious Taoist robe, his eyes exceptionally bright and spirited, obviously a spirit refinement powerhouse, exclaimed at this moment. "It's clear that Lord Liu has refined him with his techniques, outright incredible. He just went up for merely a quarter hour, and he ascended to heaven in the blink of an eye." Others showed expressions of bitter envy, achieving such a realm so easily, how unjust are the heavens. What have we been toiling so hard for all these years? Witnessing Zhu Beneng's transformation from a bone-tempering nobody to a spirit refinement martial master in an instant, those present had a multitude of thoughts, fully displaying the diverse human experience. At that moment, Arya called out loudly, "Esteemed guests, please make your way up the mountain." Only then did everyone let go of their sentiments, proceeding up the mountain with complex emotions. The number of people present was not large, and even including the younger generation that came along for the experience, there were only nearly 100 in total. After all, not just anyone could come, those qualified to visit must have someone of the innate realm to anchor their sect. After ascending the mountain, the guests finally met the long-revered Lord Liu Yao. Greetings to Lord Liu. No matter what they thought inwardly, at this moment, these people were quite respectful and courteous as they took the lead in greeting him. Liu Yao looked around with a smile, seeing many familiar faces. For instance, leading the officials was Dong Fuxiang, as well as an elderly man in his 60s, surprisingly Li Zhongtang himself. Feeling Liu Yao's gaze, Dong Fuxiang introduced. "This is Li Zhongtang, who currently manages all the civic affairs in the city single-handedly." Liu Yao nodded lightly in acknowledgement before turning to the crowd. "As it happens, this is the first time meeting everyone since the Jin realm divine manifestation. As per the custom, I am to demonstrate my abilities to you all." As Liu Yao spoke, a majestic apparition with 3 heads and 6 arms emerged behind him in midair. "It's here." At that moment, countless people widened their eyes to observe closely, especially the few with spirit refinement stage abilities who could use the heavenly eye. They were utterly focused. The essence of a divine manifestation powerhouse lies in their mind's image. Aside from paying respects, those who arrived today came with the task of gathering information about this newly emerged powerhouse. And observing the mind's image up close was the most direct approach. Chapter 417, Wishful Thinking. At this moment, it was as if an invisible 3D printer was rapidly rendering the heart image. Merely in the blink of an eye, the ghostly image of a three-headed and six-armed deity appeared between heaven and earth. Seeing this thing, some visitors with lower cultivation bases felt their martial intuition screaming warnings to them, which made them subconsciously retreat 3 steps. People clicked their tongues in wonder, is this the heart image? The legends say it possesses incredible power. Just recently, when the leader of the great vehicle sect, Hong Ronkan, performed divine manifestation, he was so formidable that he made Grandmaster Zheng jump into the river. That must be extremely powerful. Lord Lu's version seems a bit smaller in stature compared to Hong Ronkan's, but it looks more solid, with facial features that are distinctly clear. Spirit refining experts are already rare. The majority of those present had never seen a heart image before and only knew a little about it from sect scriptures and newspapers, simply understanding that it was very powerful, tantamount to the golden body realm's strength. Lay people watch the excitement, but the insiders are looking for the technique. Among these 100 people, there were surprisingly 3 spirit refining experts capable of using the heavenly eye, all to obtain first-hand information. These 3 were a richly dressed old man in daoist robes, a refined scholar in a long gown, and a middle-aged beauty in a cheongsam, each belonging to different factions. Their third eye emitted a beam invisible to the naked eye, inspecting Liu Yao's heart image in detail, and they immediately had a clear understanding. The 3 heads and 6 arms from ancient myths, ferocious and arrogant, signify an immensely strong combatant. However, it also has flaws. At only 11 meters tall, it's not particularly large. Its power is barely moderate in the golden body realm and not too difficult to deal with. This person manifested holiness through spirit refining in just a few short years. It's very likely they have a cave heaven minor world providing belief and willpower. If we could obtain it, we would surely rise swiftly. The circle of spirit refining practitioners is small, and the 3 of them knew each other. One look was enough for them to understand they were all on the same page. The factions they belonged to all had golden body level enforcers, so unlike others, they did not fear Liu Yao. However, the old man in daoist robes was quietly astonished as he looked at the central face of the heart image. It's actually the closed eye contemplation image. The moment those eyes open, there may be infinite power. I must immediately report to our leader. This person was the Dharma King of the Holy Lotus sect, whose lineage had lasted for over 1,000 years, possessing the highest insight and vision among those present. As everyone's thoughts varied while they admired the heart image, the spell-casting segment came to an end, and it was time to move on to the serious business. This was concerning their livelihood, so everyone perked up. Liu Yao first looked towards the imperial courtside and spoke calmly, Li Zhongtang, long time no see. Li Zhongtang, with his white beard and dressed in a red peacock-embroidered official robe, replied solemnly. It's been a while, Lord Liu. We owe you a great debt. Without you, the situation would have become uncontrollable long ago. His words were heartfelt because Liu Yao had stopped the aggression allied forces, and now summoned everyone here. It was clear he wanted to set some rules. Order was what the Jingjin region needed the most right now, even if it was an inferior one, it was better than none at all. Li Zhongtang patiently waited for this true lord to speak. At this point, as long as Liu Yao didn't intend to declare himself emperor, they would have to agree to any terms he set. Liu Yao spoke aloud, the Jingjinji region is in dire straits. The current plan should prioritize recuperating and restoring the livelihood of the people. This is something you, Li Zhongtang, should be well capable of handling. Should you come across any criminal acts, first report them to General Dong. If it cannot be resolved, come directly to me. Li Zhongtang's eyes fluttered, but he did not wait for the other man to say anything more. He was astonished in his heart, that's it? No other demands? Just the restoration of livelihood? Lastly, Liu Yao said, with the emperor and empress out on a western hunt, vanishing without a trace, and the commoners suffering in misery, I hope you will take the trouble to attend to all these matters. Dong Fuxiang understood Liu Yao well, showing no surprise, and was the first to speak up. Rest assured, Lord Liu. I, Dong, come from humble beginnings, and we will certainly not let you down. After speaking, he pulled the somewhat dazed Li Zhongtang away with him. Liu Yao looked towards the martial artists, causing a line of rivers and lakes characters to instantly gather their focus and straighten their stance. I'll get straight to the point, starting today, all acts of extortion, forced transactions and human trafficking must stop. The struggle for unclaimed property is limited to martial artists. How you kill and fight among yourselves, I won't intervene, but ordinary people must not be involved. In a word, stability comes first, the market must not be thrown into chaos. As soon as these words were spoken, the ranks of the martial artists were instantly thrown into an uproar. The profits of despair are the easiest to seize, there is no simpler way to get rich than to loot amidst chaos. But Liu Yao's straightforward words had just cut off the harvest for most people present. There's a saying that cutting off a man's wealth is like killing his parents. But honestly, sometimes killing parents might not even invite as much hatred as cutting off a person's wealth does. Even though their strength was far inferior, at this moment, someone couldn't hold back anymore, and the vice leader of the Five Tigers Gate was the first to step forward. Lord Liu, such bullying of our fellow comrades is perhaps improper. Over thousands of miles in the Jingjinji region, are you intending to claim it all for yourself? Please forgive my Five Tigers Gate. But before he could finish his sentence, it was abruptly cut off, as an arm suddenly appeared in the void, seizing the man. It was like a human hand picking up a chicken. This was unmistakably the manifestation of Liu Yao's heart's image. The heart's image only manifested an arm but displayed exquisite capability in manipulation, causing those who knew their stuff to twitch their eyes. This person must have made a breakthrough on his own. Otherwise, he couldn't possibly have such a command over it like it was his own limb. What great ambition! Does he also intend to cross the heavenly tribulation? Liu Yao stood still, his heart's image's massive arm bringing the dissenter before him. What is your name? The man, gripped tightly, struggled for breath. Chong. Chong Wei. Liu Yao waved his hand, tossing the man back like a piece of rotten meat, only breaking a few bones but sparing his life. This was somewhat unexpected to everyone, they had assumed Lord Liu would kill someone to establish his authority. You are guests, and it would be extremely rude for a host to harm his guests, therefore, I will spare your life today. However, as Liu Yao spoke, the phantom image of his heart's manifestation appeared behind him. After today, though, I cannot say for sure, so I hope everyone remembers my words clearly and avoids stirring up unbearable issues. With a living example before them, the people present, reluctant as they might be, no longer voiced their objections openly but remained silent. It was as the somewhat impulsive vice leader of the Five Tigers Gate had said, the Jingjinji region is such a vast area, are you going to claim it all for yourself? There must be a place where we can make a fortune. This group of people all thought that Liu Yao wanted to monopolize the advantages. Just as the atmosphere turned tense, hearty laughter suddenly erupted from the mountains and forests. Ha, it seems some still harbor hope against the odds. As the laughter ended, 3 figures descended from the sky with a fierce breaking sound. Such momentum could only belong to those in the innate realm, and the arrivals were none other than Daoist Zhou He, Fu Fangsheng, and Master Wu Jing. Lord Liu, we have come to congratulate you on your breakthrough and hope you won't hold our tardiness against us. Liu Yao laughed out loud, Daoist Zhou has advanced to the innate realm, congratulations are in order. I was about to visit Mount Wudang to find you. Brother Fu, Master Wu Jing, you have been following Lord Zhou in the northern battles, I trust all has gone well. Beyond the borders, all is well, Lord Zhou will return shortly. That is indeed good news. The few chatted as if no one else were present, darkening the faces of the martial artists in attendance. This Lord Liu wasn't a loner, he also had his own strong base of support. It's said that unnecessary words are the enemy of harmony. Not wanting to stay any longer, they were about to take their leave to report Lord Liu's intractability. Just then, from the direction of Jingyi Garden, successive crisp and long whistles arrived. The sound shook miles around, startling countless birds, and the Dharma King from the Holy Lotus sect murmured, this is, someone has made a breakthrough to the innate realm. And not just one person. Chapter 418, Where on earth did it pop out from? When connecting with the bridge between heaven and earth, one's body transcends the mundane, and both the physical body and the spirit will experience tremendous pleasure. Indeed, it makes one unable to refrain from crying out. As someone who had gone through this, Liu Yao immediately recognized the familiar voice and knew it was his 3 younger sisters who had made the breakthrough. Sure enough, it wasn't long before 4 dazzling figures swiftly approached. It was Li Pei, Liao Ye, and Liao Qi, with Yu Yanmei following behind them. The 3 young women hurried over, clearly eager to share the good news of their breakthroughs with their husband at the first opportunity. However, upon seeing so many people present, they instantly became dignified and proper, their behavior finding no fault. They had just broken through and were still unable to contain their aura, and anyone could see the innate true chi surging within them. He was the first to offer congratulations, Lu friend, your three ladies advancing to the innate martial artist realm simultaneously is truly a joyous occasion to be celebrated. Dong Fuxiang and others also offered continuous congratulations, Lord Lu has multiple blessings at his door, the simultaneous breakthrough of your three ladies is truly enviable to others. Lu Yao humbly exchanged a few words, and the atmosphere became quite joyful for a time. Other martial artists who had come to the meeting, especially those few hidden spirit refining experts, felt a bitter taste upon witnessing this harmonious scene, while also being extremely shocked. Those with more straightforward personalities started counting on their fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lu Yao's side actually has 6 innates, and 1 leak free. Don't forget about Zhou Gong. Reliable sources say Zhou Gong has passed on all his learnings to him. Plus himself. Such a formidable force, isn't it unbeatable now? All of a sudden, everyone was taken aback, looking at the representatives of the Golden Lotus sect, Kunlun, Joyful sect, and then at the envoys sent by the 3 great grandmasters. They too had an exceptionally ugly look on their faces. Where on earth did Lu Yao come from? How did he suddenly become such a giant? One can attribute his rapid rise in cultivation to talent or a fortuitous encounter, but how did such a massive force come into being? How did it emerge overnight? Moreover, he is quite reputable. Upon mentioning him there's not a person who wouldn't give a thumbs up, even I often use this man to motivate the younger generation. Ditto, this man's renown for devotion to the martial path and not indulging in lust is known to all. Just a few minutes had passed since the 3 sisters had arrived. Some shrewd people quickly calculated that their own sex could not match others, and might as well do a favor for Lord Lu, establishing good relations with this newly rising powerhouse. Consequently, they scrambled to come forward and say, "The Iron Sword sect is willing to follow Lord Lu's edicts, we will abide by the law and no longer dare to meddle with the business of the lower rivers. Our Iron Palm gang will also look to you as our leader. From today forth, the Giant Whale gang's boats will no longer deal with human traffickers." People pledged their oaths with utmost sincerity, but there were a few with expressionless faces who sneered internally. Whether out of a sense of luck or the belief that they had powerful backers, they had no intention of abiding by the rules Lu Yao had set. Lu Yao looked at them with a smile and said, "Today, I have made my words clear in person. I hope you will all remember them well, otherwise, don't say you weren't warned. Lord Lu's edicts, we certainly dare not defy." "Good," Lu Yao waved his hand casually, "then you may all disperse." These people, with their various thoughts, respectfully took their leave after bowing. Once the crowd had dispersed, he shook his head and said, "Greed clouds the mind, they won't obey willingly." Lu Yao spoke nonchalantly, "No matter, I have already given a heads up in advance, to avoid claims that I enforce without teaching." He smiled and didn't say anything more. Fu Fangsheng spoke up, "If Brother Lu needs help, feel free to ask. These scoundrels sometimes act under the guise of the Yihe society, tarnishing its reputation. If I need help, I won't be polite." Lu Yao looked at his bright and lively 3 younger sisters, smiling, "But with a thriving family, there's no shortage of people to do the work." Everyone looked at this family of innate grandmasters, all expressing admiration. This is already stronger than many powerful clans, dealing with a few gangs that are causing trouble probably won't require our help. After some pleasantries, Fu Fangsheng and Master Wu Jing didn't linger, and they stood up to take their leave. Before leaving, the 2 of them passed over a bag of blood cores, with Master Wu Jing saying, "These were obtained from the Rakshasa army, and should be useful for Lord Lu's spiritual sparrowhawk." Lu Yao didn't refuse, and accepted them with a big smile, gifting each of them a vial of the 10 complete immortal pill in return. Just a sniff of these elixirs would tell anyone that they were extraordinary treasures. Faces aglow with joy, Fu Fangsheng and Master Wu Jing clasped their fists in gratitude before they vanished from sight. After they left, he stayed behind as he had other matters to discuss. The old Taoist first transmitted the mystical refinement method known as true resolution of the thought-controlled sword through divine thought. "Young friend Lu, this is the sword technique I mentioned before, which my senior brother was initially reluctant to part with. Hearing of your advancement to the spirit-refining manifest holiness, he insisted I deliver it to you." "Thank you, Daoist Zhou, I won't be polite then." Lu Yao had been looking forward to this sword technique for a long time, and took it without any reservation. His current sword control was a little over 100 kilometers, but with this secret method from Wu Dang, it could increase to 500 kilometers. Quite delightful. Zhou He continued, this technique shouldn't be difficult for you. By the way, you were interested in crossing Thunder Tribulation before, and I've mentioned it to my senior brother. He invites you to visit Mount Wudang on the 9th day of the coming month, by which time he should have returned. Good, let's agree on that. Liu Yao had no objections and asked curiously, is sect leader Zhang still setting up a formation for the Empress Dowager's garden? The time taken seems quite lengthy. My senior brother mentioned it's a strange formation, used specifically to enhance the divine soul. This formation has been lost for a long time and was used by the ancients to communicate with heaven and earth in the past. Zhou He spoke casually, such a formation can hardly be used for evil. Perhaps the Empress Dowager has her own ideas about advancing to the spirit refining stage. I see. After chatting for a bit more, Zhou He also took his leave, giving Liu Yao and his family time to celebrate properly. Now only close ones remained in the room, and the three lovely sisters gathered around, eagerly awaiting their husband's praise. Liao Qi even threw herself into Liu Yao's arms, screaming in delight, Liu Yao, I've become a grandmaster too. Liu Yao spun his sister around in an embrace before setting her down, then turned to Yu Yanmei, saying, thank you for your protection. Yu Yanmei's face was somewhat pale, clearly due to an excessive consumption of true qi, similar to the time when she crafted the life creation pill. She patted the long chuan sword on her back, nonchalant, it's my duty, and it's also a way to repay you for the gift of the sword. Liaoya explained, my sister was hasty and almost had an accident, but thankfully, Grandmaster Yu protected her. It was a close call with no harm done. After speaking, Liaoya still shot a glare at Liao Qi. Liao Qi knew she was at fault and hid in Liu Yao's embrace, pouting and silent. Liu Yao wrapped an arm around his sister's shoulders, reassuring her, a little mishap is normal, it's all good as long as you've successfully advanced. He then cheerfully bowed to each of his three wives, exclaiming, Grandmaster Li, Grandmaster De Liao, Grandmaster Xiao Liao, congratulations on your breakthrough to the innate martial path. Thank you, my lord. The women covered their mouths, giggling lightly, and offered a deep bow in return, blooming with radiant grace. Being called Grandmaster, the dream of countless martial artists, they were thrilled beyond measure. Liaoya especially, with tears glistening in her eyes as if she were on the verge of crying with excitement, found solace in her junior brother's gentle gaze, which steadied her heart and mind. Liu Yao declared confidently, for us, reaching the innate realm is just the beginning. Our next goal is the golden body realm. Well said. Yu Yanmei nodded vigorously in agreement. Even though you've made a breakthrough, you can't be complacent. The journey is still long. Chapter 419, Let me see who dares to challenge me. Next, the whole family laid out a feast and celebrated with great food and drink. The wine was golden elixir brew, which was not only delicious and nourishing but also one of the few beverages that could make a martial artist feel drunk. Yu Yanmei, seeing that the three girls had also broken through their limits, happily drank a few more cups than usual, consuming over 6 jin. The other girls were also going wild, each drinking 7 to 8 jin, and even Sua area had 2 jin. The faces of the beautiful women glowed with a flush, their eyes glistening as if they were about to overflow with water. As they drank merrily, the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks joined in. After reaching the blood exchange realm, they had begun to prefer cooked food, and now they seemed interested in alcohol too. The few girls, already half drunk, enthusiastically forced drink after drink down the throats of the 3 spiritual sparrowhawks. Given their size, each spiritual sparrowhawk ended up drinking 10 jin. This was their first encounter with alcohol, and they had no resistance to it, they simply lay down on the spot and fell asleep. Everyone drank from noon until sunset before they felt fully content and dispersed from the feast. Next, Liu Yao was planning to study the true resolution of the thought-controlled sword sent by Zhou He. Being able to control a flying sword and take an enemy's head from 500 kilometers away was a thrilling thought. And he wondered if he could develop his cruise missiles using this method. At this moment, Li Pei secretly signaled Liao Qi and Liaoya with her eyes. Liao Qi was bursting with excitement, but Liaoya hesitated, maybe we should forget it. No way. Li Pei objected. Have you forgotten how many times he's knocked us out? We must get our revenge today, make his legs go weak at the sight of a woman. Otherwise, with his character, it won't be long before he gathers a few hundred sisters. Hearing this, Liao Ya immediately stopped objecting. So there was Liu Yao, not even halfway through the main principles, when his arms were suddenly grasped by Li Pei and Liao Qi. The two women had drunk quite a lot, their faces were flushed and they wore mischievous smiles, their eyes and eyebrows curving with laughter. "My lord, it's getting late. Let's rest early," they said, then started to whisk Liu Yao away into the house. Liu Yao looked up at the time, it was only about 7:00. Were they that eager? The three women, feeling the surging true qi and strength in their bodies, confidently declared, "Liu Yao, today you will witness our prowess." Liu Yao, upon hearing this, realized that the girls, having ascended to the innate realm, were unsatisfied and wanted to challenge his authority. He said dismissively, "Even if the realms are the same, the difference in strength is vast. Have you forgotten that I practice two divine skills simultaneously?" Li Pei coquettishly replied, "My lord, have you forgotten that we've also practiced the dragon chant golden bell cover? The gap might not be as big as you think." Liu Yao was suddenly startled, he indeed might have been too overconfident, especially against three opponents. But by then, they were already in the room, and there was no time to think too much, with the arrow already on the string. With an energetic thump, the room was filled with the sounds of vigorous counterforces clashing. About 2 hours later, the noise began to decrease until it was almost absent. At that moment, Liao Qi, looking down from above, said with a smile, "Liu Yao, didn't you eat? Why are you out of strength already?" Li Pei also took out a handkerchief, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and feigned a coquettish complaint, "My lord is out of shape, hey? You've run out of true qi." Lying on the bed, looking extremely exhausted, Liu Yao's face was filled with frustration, "Damn it, I was too careless." His physical strength was far superior to any of the three women, but this kind of situation inherently favored women, not to mention it was 1 against 3. Even at the same innate realm, Liu Yao's strength was not so overwhelming that he could crush them in a 1 versus 3 battle. Liao Qi moved a few more times before finally getting off, still not quite satisfied, and exclaimed excitedly, "The innate realm truly lives up to its reputation, a huge increase in physical constitution, and he's no match at all." Li Pei also nodded continuously in agreement, "Doing this to him every day means we won't have to worry about him flirting around." Liu Yao replied weakly, "If you dare, let's have a one-on-one battle." "Junior brother, you'd better rest well," Liao Ya advised gently, with a hint of post-joy charm in her shimmering eyes, while channeling a stream of true qi to him. But Liu Yao was not appreciative, as it had been this girl who had knocked out nearly half of his health bar earlier. After getting dressed, Li Pei called out, "Let's go solidify our realm and let our dear husband rest well." Then, she leaned over to nibble Liu Yao's earlobe and whispered softly, "Continue tomorrow." Thinking about how he even brought back a radiation source to assist them in their cultivation, Liu Yao felt like he had trapped himself in his own web. The girls had left, only their lingering fragrance remained. "I need to quickly increase my martial dao cultivation as well, otherwise, I really won't be able to handle the three of them." Liu Yao rubbed his waist as he rose from bed, beginning to study the true resolution of the thought-controlled sword. The opening line stated, "Unite heart with sword, command with divine thought." This mystical refinement method discusses allowing oneself to inhabit the sword, transferring all one's thoughts into the sword, letting the sword become the body. By doing so, one can greatly increase the control distance of the sword, even reaching thousands of miles. This method essentially speaks of a person's thoughts. After reading it, Liu Yao immediately understood, ordinary sword control is like flying a remote-controlled plane, this method, however, is about becoming the sword entirely. After going through a series of cultivations such as possession and manifestation, Liu Yao mastered the method of thought-controlled sword quite quickly. He commanded the triangle flying sword, and then with a soul travel, he projected himself into it, achieving unite heart with sword. Then, Liu Yao began to spiral upward, riding the flying sword. At this moment, he and the flying sword became one, observing the world from the perspective of the sword, looking down at the landscapes and his body on the ground, feeling like a bird. No matter the power, cultivation related to spirit refinement was definitely fun. Next, Liu Yao used the thought-controlled sword to fly over 100 kilometers away, puncturing several large trees and boulders in succession with the speed of sound. Even from such a distance, his control was as smooth as silk, without any lag or obstruction. Not bad, not only has the control distance increased, but the power has also surged. Moreover, I can totally use this method to turn the flying sword into an eye in the sky, commanding it as a warning aircraft. Liu Yao instantly thought of many applications. However, this method does have its shortcomings. Currently, Liu Yao's thoughts resided in the sword high in the sky, but his body was left without a commander. He could remote control it to perform simple actions, similar to controlling a pet in a video game. Thoughts, that is, the mind. Now with my mind in the sword, the body is uncontrolled. Interesting. It's not a big issue. After playing around with it for a while longer, Liu Yao fully mastered the true resolution of the thought-controlled sword. This doctrinal method was of the out-of-body stage, and as he practiced at the divine manifestation of the Holy Realm, it was indeed very simple. Good, now that I've learned this, it will be even more convenient to deal with the chaos in the Jingjin area next. Humming a tune, Liu Yao went to the secluded part of the back mountain and took out the missile launch vehicle and the 155 self-propelled artillery from the space-time bubble. Let's see who dares to defy me. Chapter 420, The Cruise Missile That Burrows into People's Arms. After Liu Yao achieved spirit-refining divine manifestation, his incarnation could serve as a human flesh power bank with full effort, with the star keys charging efficiency reaching 20% per day. Therefore, he no longer cared about the minor consumption of his energy, getting missiles and cannons ready to fire. While fighting crime, he could also practice the control of mind force, truly killing two birds with one stone. However, he couldn't punish the Jianghu people without teaching them first. After all, they couldn't be expected to adhere to modern moral standards, so Liu Yao gave these people a chance. But if they still refused to repent, they shouldn't blame him, Liu Yao, for being ruthless and unsparing. Liu Yao looked towards the missile launcher vehicle. This was a Thor truck with 4 rows of wheels, loaded with Tomahawk cruise missiles. With a 454 kg high explosive warhead, it was capable of blasting a hole 5 meters deep with a diameter of 15 meters into the ground. Since it's used against martial artists, only the heavy blast wave coverage area was calculated, which was about half the size of a soccer field. But this missile neither had a terrain matching system nor satellite global positioning navigation. At best, it's just a large sky-piercing monkey. Liu Yao was going to rely on the power of spirit refining to turn this oversized sky-piercing monkey into a precisely controlled flying sword. He started the missile vehicle, adjusted the launch tube, and aimed approximately in the direction of Jinmen, the epicenter of chaos and disaster. Upon pressing the launch button, the 6-meter-long missile spit out intense flames and white smoke, abruptly shooting out of the tube. And at that moment, Liu Yao's divine soul left his body and attached itself to the missile, ascending to the heavens with it. After traveling 10 kilometers, he had full control over the missile and could even draw circles in the sky for fun. The Imperial City was less than 200 kilometers from Jinmen, and the range of the Tomahawk cruise missile was 2,000 kilometers, so Liu Yao could easily make a few laps in the sky to observe the situation. Let's see which little darling hits the jackpot. Jinmen. Although the coalition forces of the great powers had landed here, causing severe devastation. But as a gigantic commerce port, recovering its former bustle wasn't difficult. Thus, ownerless shops and mansions became targets of contention among the various Jianghu factions. And the most bloody and intense battlefields were undoubtedly the docks and harbors, which could be likened to cornucopias. At this moment, in a tea house at Beihe Dock, the high-level members of the Five Tigers Gate, who had taken over the place, were holding a meeting. The giant whale gang really stopped trafficking people, their ships are now smuggling salt. The Iron Palm gang also left the city overnight, giving up all the territory they had snatched. When previously visiting the mountain, these two gangs had stated they would no longer involve themselves in messy affairs, and they had kept their word. However, they were met with unanimous ridicule from the Five Tigers Gate. Deputy Gate Leader Chong Wei sneered first, a bunch of cowards scared off by a few words. Good riddance, we'll snatch the territory they've vacated. The gang leaders below echoed this sentiment. Exactly, exactly. Not taking advantage when it's offered is fool's play. Snatch it TND. If the giant whale gang won't do it, we'll turn to the ships of the Golden Lotus sect. While the crowd was riled up, one of the more prudent elders spoke up. These small factions without backing couldn't carve out much advantage to begin with, leaving might actually be the wise move. As for Lord Lu, shouldn't we keep a low profile? At least stop the slave trade, it's too conspicuous. At these words, a multitude of brawny men made the place thunder with their clamorous debate. A business that brings in 40% profit can't just stop on a whim. I think Lord Lu was just talking, not really caring about such a trivial matter. Vice sect leader Chang Wei slammed his fist onto the table and said, "Fortune favors the bold, we must not show any fear. With Elder Zheng backing us, who is Grandmaster Zheng's own brother, who would dare to lay a hand on us?" After a noisy debate, everyone looked towards the sect leader who had yet to speak a word. The sect leader of the Five Tigers Gate had a square face and was a big guy who in his early years collected debts for a gambling house. His gaze was particularly chilling. At this moment, he was staring out the window at the canal where ships laden with goods were sailing past. Many of the ships were carrying live humans, the so-called overseas laborers, commonly known as piglets. The good-looking ones would become blood slaves, specifically to bleed for vampires to drink. The older and less appealing ones would be used as labor for coal mining, railroad construction, and other grueling tasks. The great powers, short of manpower due to the war, could sell even those who were not boys and girls for high prices, even earning a knighthood in exchange. The sect leader of the Five Tigers Gate simply couldn't let go of the massive profit, and after a brief contemplation, he set the tone: "We can't stop the business, instead, we must accelerate the pace. Those clinging to their land deeds and refusing to sell, tie them up in sacks tonight and sink them in the river, and ship out the piglets to overseas right through the night. However, to be safe, we need to cozy up some more. From now on, let the goddesses of the joyful sect have their way with the girls we bring in from the villages first, and then we ship those they don't want overseas. As long as we have a deep enough backing, whoever thinks of touching us will have to think twice." The big guys burst into laughter at the mention of the joyful sect. The joyful sect is great. If the goddesses take a fancy, enjoying a blissful encounter can be excellent. Chang Wei chuckled smugly, even if Lu Ya reached spirit refining manifest holiness, so what? Across hundreds of miles in the Jingjinji region, countless people make a living, how can he possibly oversee it all? Isn't he the one who shuns beauty and dedicates himself to cultivation? If he's too busy playing hero, does he even have time to cultivate? The rest agreed. The sect leader of the Five Tigers Gate smiled and said, "All right, cheer up everyone. Jinmen is where our Five Tigers Gate will build our foundation for years to come, and it could be a lifetime of wealth. Don't worry, sect leader. We understand." Just as they were standing up and about to go about their tasks, a sudden piercing sound came. It was a cruise missile coming at the speed of sound, propelled by thrust and inertia, its long tail streaking through the air. At that moment, even the lowest among those present was in the organ refining state, and the sect leader and Chang Wei, who were in the blood exchange realm, reacted immediately, with everyone's face showing a horrified look as they scattered in all directions. "Is it a flying sword? Why such a commotion? Run! Jump into the canal, and the flying sword can't do anything to you." For thousands of years, the flying swords of spirit refinement experts have been no secret, and everyone had their own methods of evasion. At this moment, they all used their divine skills to flee for their lives, Chang Wei running particularly fast, a hint of faint regret and resentment in his heart. Why is Lu Yao taking this so seriously? Was it really worth it, just over a few shops and a few kids to sell, such a trifling matter? The next second, before the people had run 20 meters and still hadn't left the tea house, the missile had pierced the roof and crashed in, making a turn before burrowing into Chang Wei's embrace. Chang Wei held the missile with his guts churned with fear. He knew without a doubt this was nothing good. He was carried involuntarily towards the sect leader by the immense kinetic energy. In the next moment, just as their eyes met in shock, a dazzling light erupted, followed by a deafening explosion. The horrific blast wave instantly turned the quaint tea house to dust. The high-ranking members of the Five Tigers Gate were pulverized like being thrown into a grinder, their remains, mixed with various debris, sprayed in all directions, with only those more powerful leaving more intact corpses. Of course, Chang Wei, who had embraced the missile, was beyond any chance of being intact. The gang members operating the boats on the river looked up at the sudden appearance of a large crater on the ground with faces filled with horror. Various kinds of debris fell from the sky, carrying an unpleasant smell of char.